if it's an issue going that way because of like maybe the wind, or maybe they start to fall asleep and then they just kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on over there.
I think a lot of it's the wind, especially for the semis. But what happened that day with us is
we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle for FXRs, which is more of a stretch of road between Amarillo and, let's just say, Albuquerque.
Yeah,
That's fair.
So,
right in there, for sure.
and so what happened was Mike flipped your truck with the FXRs in the back.
That's right.
I was driving Dusty's truck that happened
right.
to flip.
My truck that had made it from Mike's driveway all the way out to Nevada, and I'd say probably 3/4 of the way back. We don't know what happened, and we never will, and I'm not blaming Mike for it. We'll never know what happened.
We'll also say made it from my driveway. When you pulled up to my driveway, your brake caliper fell off the truck.
But we fixed it before we left
And then going out there, we got, at least one flat tire.
on the trailer.
So
we
it's like,
replaced all the
to make
tires
it
on the
seem
truck.
like this is a perfectly sound operation from the jump.
To be fair, nothing was going my way that whole week. My bike didn't get put together, which is a blessing, because if it had, it would have been in that trailer. All the work that you two guys did would have been wrecked.
Yeah.
So that wasn't in the trailer. So thank goodness it wasn't. And I told him and Gary several times, like, I'm out. I have a bad feeling about this trip. It doesn't feel right. Something's not good. And
This was FXR Jam 19, 20, or 21?
20.
I think it was 20. It was during COVID, but I feel like if it was 19, it would have been too thick to be driving to California. That was too soon from, everything was really shut down.
There was nothing. I mean, it happened in 2020, so it had to be 20.
Oh,
COVID
yeah, that's
happened,
right. Yeah, so it was, yeah. It must have been 20 because it wasn't 21.
Yeah.
Must have been. Anyway, it was a...
I've always felt like more people have issues when they put their bikes in trailers than when they just ride them.
You got to realize that's only twice have I ever trailered to shows, is that one, and that happened. And then the only other time was to run to Raton the second year, because the first year was so high. I was like 113 riding back. Mm-hmm. My buddy's like, Ben, he was like, hey, why don't we, the one who picked us up this time actually.
Yeah.
He was like, why don't we just trailer out there, Mm-hmm. He's like, or we'd actually threw it in the back of the truck. We threw it out in the back of the truck, and then we broke down like 3 times in his truck. You're talking about, it was a Chevy 2500 diesel with like 50,000 miles on it, not like some old clapped out truck. And we broke down like 3 times going out there to where it's 113. We ain't got no air conditioning, just sitting there trying to fix a truck on the side of the road instead of bikes. And we're like, might as well just rode the bikes. That'd have been fucking easier than this at this point. And then the next time I decided to trailer, that happened. I'm like, I'm done. Either I ride bikes to shows or I don't go to shows.
This
doesn't work out.
That's also the stretch where Joe Kidd and his brother flipped their that pizza trailer.
I don't even think they flipped it. Marty ran off the road, or there was like a snowstorm or something.
Oh,
that little pizza trailer,
Didn't
and then they left it there.
I thought that thing caught fire or something like that.
No, it was like we did the podcast here, and they went to Louisiana, I think, to pick up the.
It was a pizza trailer.
Yeah, he was gonna do like this pizza, like food truck kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But it was a trailer, and they were on 40 going through New Mexico, and either snow or something happened, and it just kind of wrecked that shit.
It's the aliens out there, man.
It's aliens.
That's what it is.
New Mexico don't want people coming in, man. They're like, just stay the fuck out.
Yeah.
They like our privacy.
So back to the trailer and deal. That's the only show, I think, if I remember right, that's the only
You know what?
time I've ever trailered a bike.
That
to
stretch
show.
of road is also where your chopper wrecked too.
Oh, a year ago, almost to the day. It was the same weekend a year before. I was coming back from running to Raton on the twin cam chopper we were talking about earlier, and laid it down out there.
What caused that?
Probably piss poor mechanicing on my part. The rear wheel locked up.
Oh, shit.
Actually, it was piss poor welding on my part, not mechanicing. Thing still ran. Just I had 3 points that my rear fender were mounted to, which is not enough. I'll never. From that point on, the way I feel about a chopper is anything that if you can't hook up to any piece, the sissy bar, the exhaust, the seat, the handlebars, whatever it may be, if you can't lift the bike by that point, it's not stout enough.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's the way I feel about it from now on. But
You got
anyway,
an adorable scar from that one though.
Yeah, Yeah, I got a little butterfly scar on my butt cheeks from that. It's pretty sweet. But anyway, at some point, the fender, the metal around my weld, which I'm not blaming the metal, it's my fault. I didn't do something right. But anyway, where it comes off like the seat section, off the crossbar, that broke, and the fender tipped down, basically acting like a drum brake on my rear tire.
Okay.
Or at least that's what I figure happened. That's the only thing.
So that bottom like bolt that's usually under your seat, it let loose and then just like if you would put like a Coke can in there or something
Pretty
on a
much.
bicycle, yeah.
So me and Ben, the guy he was just talking about, we were actually riding back together from that show, and he was beside me. His wife was behind us in a car, thank goodness, because I was in no shape to ride the rest of the day. Neither was my bike, obviously, but so we U-hauled it back to his house and unloaded his bike, and I drove it on home. Got home about 10 hours later than I was supposed to with road rash on my ass cheeks and hands. It's a good time. Real good time.
On my way up to Sturgis, I actually usually when I go through Raton, I just hit the highway once you come off and just go straight up over the pass into Colorado. And I was making such good time this year that I was like, you know what? I've never driven through downtown Raton. I want to see what the vibe is.
Have you never been to Run to Raton?
Mm-mm. It's always too close to Sturgis for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I drove through it, and I was like, I guess in my head, I always thought of this like real kind of gritty town that's got choppers everywhere, and
One weekend of the year, you're right.
Yeah. It just seemed homely. Like, I don't know. It didn't really put off the vibe that a party happens here,
Well, that's the nice thing is it's such a remote, small town that when it does go on and the city actually supports the event because it brings in, a bunch of business, everyone's respectful and stuff, that they all support it. So it does turn into just like a whole motorcycle town. Because, as you know, if you went through it, 5 minutes, you're in and out of the town. If you get a couple hundred guys on choppers there, it literally takes over the entire town, and it's just a little motorcycle town. Except, unlike you've talked about Daytona or something, everyone's super stoked to have them there. So it's a pretty cool event, I think. I think it's just the worst time of year because no matter where you're coming from, it's 110 degrees to get there. And
this heat has been retarded this year.
This year's,
There went my demonetization right there.
I was just about to say, I was like, already, man, we're like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, it's been gnarly, man. I've had a hard time. This heat right now, like looking at it, saying like it's supposed to be 110 tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah,
that's so
every
unreal.
day.
I think it's a new record. I think 109 was the record.
Yesterday was a record. Today was a record.
Yeah.
The day before yesterday was a record.
How many days in a row do we have that have been over 100? Does anybody know that?
It's been
Too
quite
many.
a bit, from my knowledge, right?
Oh no, but I think I remember seeing.
Oh well, we
something
just
about-
had 2 days last week that it was only in the 90s.
It's bad that when it gets to like the low hundreds, we're like, whew, finally, it's below 105 today.
Well, I thought I read something Friday that Dallas was like one of the hottest places in the country.
I believe it.
Feels like it.
Yeah, for sure.
What's crazy is I'm working in the AC. Obviously, my house has AC. All of my vehicles have AC. And I'm still over this fucking heat. Because I'm like, I feel like I'm just stressing all my AC units right now. I'm like, that's how bad it is. Like, the AC at work was failing. The AC at home was failing. All my cars, I'm having to check. I'm like, are they working right? Or is it just that hot that it can only get it so cold? And
I'm not looking forward to what my electricity bill is going to be for this shopping next month, because this thing has pretty much been running all day long.
oh, yeah.
And I got it set at 80 degrees, and it hasn't gotten below 82. It just like hovers there.
Yeah.
So at least 83 degrees feels okay.
yeah,
in
it's
here,
not bad.
Yeah, when you've been standing outside or working outside or whatever, 80's all of a sudden pretty nice.
What sucks is like as soon as I turn the paint booth on to paint something, all the cool air gets sucked out of the shop. So it just runs even more. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this heat starting to kind of
There's no end in sight. That's the problem.
Yeah.
'Cause it's been going so long and there's still no end.
I don't like when it's just hot and then it turns to cold, and it feels like it's been like that. Like there's been no transition period from like hot to cold. It's just like off
So
on.
what's nice about Tennessee, you actually get 4 seasons in Tennessee, which is pretty
Must be
rad.
nice.
It is nice. I miss Tennessee.
I haven't lived in a Four Seasons place since I was 5 years old.
Right?
You got 4 seasons in Jacksonville?
No.
New
Oh,
York.
I moved out of there in
yeah,
my
that's right.
mid-20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when did you end up coming back to Texas? Because you were out there working with Jessup for the last couple of years.
Yeah, so I came back probably close to 2 months ago. Whenever school let out, we let the kids finish the school year up there, and didn't want to move them. You know, we've already moved them around quite a bit, so let them finish up the school year, and came out this way, just kind of getting settled in Aledo. My wife's mom moved from Murphy to basically Aledo.
Where's Aledo at?
Just it's
Where Dan lives.
right
You know
between
where Dan
Weatherford and Fort
Okay.
Worth.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It's nice out there.
It
I
is
like
nice.
it.
It's real nice out there. It's just right where the views start getting good, where it's not just flat. And, you know.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as you cross, like if you're on 20 heading out that way, as soon as you pass 820 right there, like where 820 hits 20,
Yeah.
it just gets pretty. The hills, you can see them rolling. The trees are shorter. You can see further. I
I'm
love
about
it out there.
15 minutes from right there where 820 and 20 intersect. About 15 minutes west of there. So it's nice. We're liking it. We're just getting settled in. You know, kids are starting school. They started Wednesday. Big football program there in Aledo. Which my
How old are your
son's
kids?
11 and 13. So 6th and 8th grade. My he's pretty jazzed up about the football program there, which
Nice.
yeah.
I just watched that documentary on Manziel on
Me
Netflix.
too.
It was pretty good.
I didn't catch
It was
that one.
depressing.
The end. I didn't like the end of it. I felt like it left too much. Didn't really solve. It didn't solve the question of what happened to him. It just told me what he's done, and then once he got out of football, it's just pretty much I just got depressed and drank my life away, and here I am in a badass house in Scottsdale,
Right.
and it's like,
So-
what are you doing now, dude?
So did he make enough money and save enough money to be set up?
Yeah, that's why it
No,
didn't
or-
answer a lot of those questions,
I
but
missed that one. So.
it was
But
pretty good.
It's also
still.
been pretty recent since he got cut from the NFL. So will he be out of money in a year or two?
I mean, he got cut. What? 2000 or 2019 or 18 or something like
Yes, that's pretty recent. I guess.
Yeah, not really, man.
It's 5 years. I mean,
years is a long time.
when you sign a contract for billions of dollars, 5 years is not that long, you know.
Because
Unless
I think he had got the rookie contract of $8 million. Because he went, I guess you go higher in the draft, you get less money. So it was like $8 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, but apparently
Goes
he was
fast.
already, balling out of control. So
yeah. Who knows? Maybe we'll see another documentary on being homeless or something in 5 years. Can't ever tell.
part 2. Yeah, man. So me and Corey were talking last weekend, because I've been back and forth at Corey's house a lot, working on this FXR tour build, and I was like, man, what would be a good idea? Who'd be good to have on the podcast right now? And he's like, we hadn't heard from FXR Mike in a long time.
Nope.
And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then at the time, you were just posting all those pictures of, I guess, y'all's recent trip to California.
Yeah.
What was that? Did y'all drive out there as a road trip, or did y'all just fly out and rent?
Both of my daughters, who are now, one's about to be 17 and one is 13, they both always want to go to California. Honestly, I've been out there a bunch of times for bikes and stuff, and I'm always going, and every time I go, they're like, well, we want to go to California. They're
Yeah,
most kids, and then especially you're talking about girls and teenagers and stuff, like, that's like a dream. Let's go to California and stuff. And so I'm always going. I don't take anyone in my family. I just go and be selfish. So I told my oldest one, I was like, look, I'm going to go to the West Coast Jam this year, which is back in July. I was like, if you want to come with me, we'll be riding bikes and stuff. She hasn't ridden a bike in quite a while. Like, she kind of got over that probably when she was like 12 or 13 or something. So it's been a few years. But I was like, if you want to go to California, I'm planning on going out there. Nick was going to let me ride one of his bikes, or Mark or somebody, whoever had an open bike, to like just fly out and ride one of mine. So I told her, if you want, you can do that. We could go, see some of California while we're out there. Well, work just got too busy. I couldn't go. We ain't get no days off. It's been just 7 days a week at work. So I had to cancel that. And so I told her, I was like, look, before school starts, which same thing Wednesday, I was like, if you still want to go, we'll just go out for a week, me and you. And so that's what we ended up doing. We just flew into LA few things she wanted to see in LA, like the Lana Del Rey mural, which I guess is a pretty big deal for a 16-year-old girl. And, you know, so we just did some LA things, drove up to Northern California, spent a while in San Francisco, did a little bit of camping with my friends up there, like Nick, Mark, Josh, Jamie, Greg, bunch of FXR guys, basically. We did camping, some, what do they call it, the paddle boarding and stuff. We both did that for the first time, which I know they do down here also, but I had never done. So, you know, we did all that, just all a bunch of California touristy stuff. Went back to San Francisco, saw Nigel, and that was basically she just been wanting to do it, and she's a good kid, so I was just like, fuck it, you know, I mean, I've worked so much, and I was like, let's just spend all this money I made on overtime in a week. Let's see if we can do that, you know, and we accomplished our goal, yay. So I worked all summer for 1 week of vacationing.
Y'all ate pretty good. It looked like you spent some money on some food.
Yeah.
That's where, well, I tried not to be selfish and make it like, hey, like, you know, I had a lot of friends in LA or Northern California, like, hey, let's meet up and this and that. And I'm like, no, I didn't want to make it into, we're going to go do all these things. I want to go to the Peterson Museum while we're there in LA. Like, a lot of things I wanted to go do, but I was trying not to make it like she's older now. Like, when kids are little, it's like, you know, it's like they just kind of follow you around. I was like, I tried to make it, working on trying to be a good dad. Like, look, you basically tell me what you want to do, and then I'll basically make the itinerary, but with all things you want to do. So I didn't see any friends except for Nick and them, because we were all going camping together, and she didn't want to see some of the nature stuff up there. But so didn't get to do much of that stuff that I wanted to do in California. So I'm like, if I don't get to do that, I'm going to eat fucking good. So I'm like, I'm picking all the food spots. And so I picked all the food spots, and that's why that was kind of the exciting part for me.
What was her favorite spot? Was it NorCal or SoCal?
She was wanting to spend more time in NorCal. That's why I flew into LA, because I figured we could fly in there, spend a day there. If she's really loving it, we spend another day, then drive up. We were going to drive the PCH, but big service closed down, so we couldn't until after that.
Should I just do 101? Or what? Yeah,
we took 101, I guess, is what it is. Not boring as fuck. Just as boring as the 5, I found out.
Yeah.
So either way, it's boring. But we did that, and then she takes all like AP dual enrollment classes. So almost everything except for the Lana Del Rey mural was like, I want to go to this museum. I want to go to this aquarium. I go here, here, here. So that was a lot of the stuff we did was just stuff smart people like to do, you know. But you know, it was a good time. But like I said, I needed my relief, my release with food and stuff. I was like, I gotta eat some good food while we're here, because that she didn't care either way.
I haven't had, the first time I ever had clam chowder was in San Francisco. And so far, the best clam chowder I've ever had was in San Francisco. So I've been craving that. Yeah. Even in New England, it sucked.
That's the only place I've had it is up in New England.
I didn't like it up there. But I, of course, only tried one place. So I can't damn the whole nation of New England.
I mean, you might come down to Texas and get some Dickey's barbecue and be like, Texas barbecue sucks.
Exactly. They can get Dickey's barbecue all over the country, though.
Oh, can they?
Yeah.
Is that everywhere?
It's everywhere. I used to eat it in NorCal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got HEBs growing all over the place.
Dude, I hate that everything cool starting in Texas and it's just going everywhere else. You know what I mean?
I think HEB's still exclusively Texas, but they used to be like South Texas. And now we have one right up there. Like I went there today. Because you can they make their own tortilla chips, their own guacamole.
Yeah,
this is a grocery store we're talking about.
So check it out. Like, I grew up poor, so we used to always, the store we shopped at had the High Top was their kind of like their off-brand like food, and I knew when I grew up I never wanted to have to buy that type of food. So like the great value stuff at like Walmart, I don't give a shit if it tastes the same or not. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
name brand shit in my fucking house, right? And but HEB is the only place that I've ever had where everything that's HEB brand feels like better quality than normal stuff.
I know you have at least one Florida friend because you're friends with Big Trouble.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jason's been in Florida for a while, so you already have to know that Publix is our grocery store out there. I know you can't have a Florida friend without knowing that about Publix.
Yeah.
So I'm used to the store brand being better than the name brand, because that's how it is. At Publix, I mean, you grow up in Florida, Publix is like our Buc-ee's, basically.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I learned about Publix while I was in Tennessee, actually. Never seen one, heard of one.
It's the best.
was talking to a guy at the shop one day about how everybody's hot wings around there sucked, and he's like, "Man, you got to go to the Publix." I was like, "The hell is Publix?" He says, "A grocery store." I was like, "You're telling me that the best wings I can find in East Tennessee is in a grocery store?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm telling you, that's the way it is." So I go, I'm at work one day, ease over to the Publix. Not only do I find out that they got damn good wings, but they got really good sushi in a grocery store.
Best subs you'll ever get.
There's
too.
a guy sitting there making the sushi. Like, they got it at Walmart or Kroger's or whatever, but you don't see anybody. It's just there, in the cold section. Right?
Yeah.
There's a dude making the sushi rolls right there in front of you at Publix.
Hell yeah.
I miss Publix. It's one of the things about Tennessee. You
can't explain. If you ain't lived around a Publix, it just doesn't make sense how a grocery store could be that.
So
good.
we have an HEB here in Waxahachie. We've had one here for
really
damn near ever, right? So we've been shopping there for the last since I've lived out here.
Since you started making money, living a little highfalutin.
No, trust me.
we got one in Hudson Oaks. And
you want to know why my paint jobs cost so much? We go to HEB.
No,
I think I had texted Mike, and I was like, I'm so glad to be, because I'm from Texas, but I've never lived. We're from North Texas. There's not any HEBs up there.
This is what we call North Texas.
So, 3 miles from the Red River is pretty far north.
I know,
Texas.
you're north.
So I texted him the other day, and I was like, "Man, I'm so glad to be in Texas and be able to shop at a HEB." And he was like, "I've never lived close to one." So I was like, "Well,
they're starting to kind of. I guess they opened one in Plano recently. They had a big deal with, because we don't have the one that has the barbecue joint inside. They have some HEBs that have full barbecue
we don't have
spots. Yeah, so a lot of the ones in Austin they have a whole barbecue restaurant inside of them, and it's supposed to be really good. But I've never had that one. Ours is just a normal one. I think they're remodeling it though.
They're building an H Mart in Haltom City. They just announced, hasn't started, but we're finally going to get a grocery store in Haltom City. So I'm just stoked on that because we don't even have anything right now.
How did we even get on grocery stores?
I don't know, man. It's bad. It's exciting news for us. We're getting a grocery store
because we're old, man. It's like
right.
There's this road right here, 77. When you go back into Waxahachie, being here every day, and I eat out a lot. Like I enjoy going to eat lunch out. That way I feel like I'm around people and stuff. And anytime there's breaking ground on something, I'm like, what is it? Can it be a restaurant, something?
We went to one of my favorite restaurants today in Fort Worth, which is right next to the house that I lived in, like when me and Jade lived together when I first moved out here. And over in the Riverside area of Fort Worth. And we're driving back, and I was showing Glenn, I'm like, oh man, remember when this was that, and that was that, and now they got all these fancy loft apartment places over there, and it was a rough area back then. And I'm like, I guess I've lived in Texas a while, because I'm like, this feels like when we go back home to Florida, and I'm like, oh man, look what changed. I'm like, now we just drive 5 miles, and I'm like, this changed that. I'm like, I guess, I don't know, this is almost making me feel like a Texan now, to where I drive down the street and I'm like, I remember when this was that. And I'm like, I guess I've been here a long time at this point, because it's been
definitely
14 years almost since I've been here.
For real.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Every time I leave though, I'm hoping, because I've been traveling a lot this year, and sometimes I'll leave and I'm like, I hope they finish the highway by the time I got back, because they've been working on 35 the entire time that I've lived out here on the south side.
Same 35 out there. They're always working on too.
It's crazy.
It'll never stop. As soon as they finish one section, it's been so long since the 3 sections that they started on 10 years before. They just got to start back.
Well, in Dallas, they redid all of 35, but then they tore it down and redid it again because it wasn't what they wanted.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
All these Californians moving out here.
Dude, it's insane. Every field out here is a housing development now.
Same, dude. Where I work up in Justin, it was all, because I work 3 miles away from where GE was, and so was the hot rod shop I worked.
And that's out there by the racetrack out there in North
Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah,
and GE is right next to Texas Motor Speedway. The hot rod shop I was at was 3 miles down the road, and then the shop I'm at now is right next door to the hot rod shop. So I've been working in that area for the past 9 years, and when I first started working there was a 7-Eleven gas station on that exit, and that was it. Nothing.
Yeah.
Now it's completely built up.
Don't they got
There's a whole town center, outlet mall.
Yeah, outlet mall. I bought some shoes there once.
There's In-N-Out. There's a bunch of things. There's a Buc-ee's. There's all this stuff. I mean, there's every restaurant you could possibly imagine. Chipotle, Smoothie King, all these things. developments everywhere.
Yeah.
And like when I started working there just 8-9 years ago, it was just fields.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Absolutely.
That
nothing.
side of town has been blowing up nasty because every time I go west and I hit 287, back in the day, like 15 years ago, hell, 20 years ago now, I worked out there in, yeah, I worked there off like Blue Mountain Road and 287, and there was nothing there. There was no housing developments. All they had was the Dickies plant, and then like this little like junkyard for cars, and then this little long strip of shops and everything. And then now that whole highway all the way till you get to damn near where 114 comes together, it's like solid housing developments.
When I first moved here, it was Christmas 2009. I moved here Christmas Eve. And my first job I started like the beginning of the 2010. I was living in Fort Worth, and I was doing construction working just north of Denton. So I'd have to drive from up 35W from Fort Worth to Denton. It was up in like Aubrey. And once you left Fort Worth, it was nothing except Cabela's. Cabela's was the only stop until you got to Denton. And there was a gas station at Cabela's. So I was like, if I needed gas or pick up an energy drink or whatever, you know, or like a breakfast, had to do it there. Now, from Fort Worth to Denton, there's almost no empty space. It's completely built up. And I'm like, that's just, it blows my mind. I mean, I guess, like I said, when I really think about it, it's been like 13, 14 years. But it just seems so crazy that so much has been built.
There's been some sayings that like Dallas is projected over the next 15 years to be either one of the biggest metropolitan areas.
It already is, dude. It's like number 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like, and when I got here, it wasn't even in anywhere near there.
I think we're around 10 million as a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's to the point now where I don't even like being here.
Too full. Yeah, no. We tried to move. I mean, I don't know if you knew. I know Dusty knew. I know a handful of people, but like I was slated to move back to Florida because we were just going back. We decided, we talked it over as a family. We're moving back to Jacksonville.
I think I had heard something about that.
And like I didn't like announce it, but like I said, all my friends knew, like my close friends. And I was, you know, we were just going back. I was like, I'm done. Like we were only out here for my job. And then I realized when I stopped working at G, I was like, I mean, Glenda, my wife, we're talking about it. And we're like, well, what are we even out here for anymore? You know, it's like we went back for my daughter's quinceañera. She wanted to have it out there. So we did. And we're like, why don't we just move back? And so that was the plan. We're moving back, getting everything situated. Carlos ends up hitting me up about like, you know, working with him or for him. I don't know if I work for him or with him, whatever. But I think it's for him. Kind of like my boss. But so I ended up getting that job, and it just ended up going really well. We ended up staying out here. But yeah, we were getting out because they're saying they were like, dude, it's just so many people. It just kind of sucks.
Yeah,
living out here in a lot of ways.
Getting around places, going to restaurants, like
not that I hate it, but I mean it's just so overcrowded.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately on the south side of town where we're at, it's not as congested yet, but over the next 5 years with all these developments coming up, it's going to be solid traffic all the time down here now, which is at that point it's like they're building houses here, but they're not building fucking restaurants or entertainment or anything to do. So we still have to go to Dallas to go have decent food. You know what I mean? If you want fried chicken, we got you on this side of town. We got you. You want anything not good for you, it's down here on the south side. But you want to get like a Chewy's Mexican restaurant, 30 miles, closest one.
You could say they healthy food?
Healthier than Kentucky Fried Chicken or Hall's Chicken. What's another one we have down here?
There's like Golden Chick.
Golden Chick's pretty good.
Golden Chick's good.
We got a lot of
Fried
leases.
I ain't talking about Golden Chick.
Their fried open's good. Their rolls are good.
You got a bunch of leases out here? Because, dude, we got leases on every corner in Fort Worth.
There was one in DeSoto, Duncanville area, and that was the only one I knew of.
Really?
But then I was driving around. I forgot.
Yeah, you go to Fort Worth, dude, and it's on every corner.
I think it was over there. I was like, there's a leases there. I was like, what the fuck?
I've never even heard of leases. What is leases?
Well, you just got to the Fort Worth side. You're going to be initiated. It's just fried chicken.
Well, isn't
You know, fried chicken, catfish, you know, your typical fried, everything gets dumped in a fryer.
Everything fried. Right on.
You've if you go back on your social media in the last like year or two, you've really leaned into your roots of Jacksonville and the donks and the whole shoes, like everything. And we've talked about this before on podcasts, just about like, you know, growing up in the environments that we were in and stuff. But it's awesome seeing you rolling around a Caprice.
But yeah, I mean, you're one of the few people I know these days that came up in a similar situation or just environment, whatever you want to call it, to where it's just, I don't know. I guess I got out of that when I moved to Texas and went a lot heavier into bikes. And I don't know, part of just going home a couple times, like I said, for my dark skin quinceañera, linking up with some of my childhood friends, just kind of started missing that side of things, Yeah. It's just been, for me, it's been a lot more fun, just kind of getting back into all that. That's what I grew up in.
But let me ask you this, like, is there any kind of a community attachment towards those type of vehicles or that type of world, or is it just the friends that you had?
No, there definitely is. I mean, if you're talking about like in that, I mean, like a community sense, like as in like there's the FXR community and stuff. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely gets super deep. I mean, in anything, it's the same thing. Whether it's this kind of bike, that kind of bike, or this kind of car. Like if it's these Cadillacs, or if you're talking about Impalas and Caprices and stuff, it's all there. I mean, especially like for like what I'm into in the South, just because that's what I grew up with. I mean, in Florida, like that's the home of all of like, the Impalas and Caprices. Yeah. And there's definitely a big community around all that. Not that I've been real deep in that. Like these days, I don't really go out and do anything. I just do my thing. Like I was telling you earlier, like I don't really see anybody anymore. But no, there's definitely a lot of community. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, you get into all that stuff, and they all talk the same kind of stuff as that.
I guess what I'm alluding to is obviously getting into these different things like the FXR culture, it's great for the community aspect. But over time, because same thing, like over time in the performance bagger world right now, I'm drawn to the people that were around kind of at the beginning. But a lot of the new kind of people that are coming around, I'm just kind of checked out on. And it's nothing against them. I'm just kind of over it.
Well, like with the FXR side, I always said, I mean, you could go back on old podcasts where we talked, like FXRs, yes, I like the bikes. But like I didn't buy one because it was the best bike. I bought it because it was the cheapest big twin I could get at the time. When I first bought my first one. And that was in like 2013, I think. And I just got it because it was the cheapest big twin, like I said. Like I had a shovel head, I wanted something newer, Evo, Dyna, whatever. I was looking at FXRs and Dynas, and just got an FXR because it was the cheapest bike I could find. And I had a push button to start it, didn't have to kick it, and reliably ride it across country. And I said, what made, to me, FXRs better than anything else was just the people and the community and all this and that. And that's why, like, I know me and Dusty have talked about this, and some of our other friends, like, as they got more popular and common, and just, like, the scene became whatever it's become now, it's just kind of pushed me off, because it's, like, it's not the same as it was. And I don't even want to say, like, you were saying about, like, the older people and the newer people, because a lot of the older people were the same thing, like, just, it's so full of, like, just so proud that they had one before other people, to where it's, like, this isn't the same kind of just love we all had for everybody. Now it's more like everyone's trying to show out. Whether it's new guys trying to drop 30 grand on an FXR and show out, or guys being like, who bought an FXR in 2010, lying, saying they bought one in 93 when they were 2 years old, just whatever. Everyone's just so full of shit and all of it that it's just kind of lost all of its appeal, because it's like, the people were what made it great. And when everybody's just trying to outdo each other and make themselves seem so much
more
cooler
OG
than they are,
or
more OG, or I've spent more money, or whatever, it's just like, this is never what it was about. It was just, and it's just, that's what turned me off of it and made me lose like all motivation on it, which kind of sucks, because it was a great thing that was going, but it just became such a thing to where, like, I feel like dudes are practically getting tattooed the date they bought their first FXR. Like, this is some proud thing to be about, like, fuck, dude, it's a fucking motorcycle. I mean, and it just got so silly that.
Well, I wonder if, like, because they say, like, in some scenes, it's like the time you go into owning and figuring things out and doing stuff is kind of like the putting in the work, and then by putting in the work, you kind of have a different appreciation for everything around you versus when people are just buying turnkey motorcycles and then they jump in the scene. They don't kind of put in the work to have the same mentality and be like-minded with other people in that sense. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Not that everybody has to have the same like personality to be in it, right? Because the diversity of personalities is what makes motorcycles cool. But it's the fact that no matter how diverse people are, this bike or this idea around this bike, everybody is in agreement on this table, right?
And I felt like that was more the focus for years, like when you first got into it and stuff. And that was more like, because it was just kind of...
I think when I got into it was right...
When it was peeking its head out to like, this is a cool thing.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't really where it got, but that was kind of like the peak of it. You know, it's like people started realizing.
When I got around, because you were sending me a lot of bikes, and you could find decent... I think you can find decent ones right now. I think the price has gone back down. But
somewhat. Not like what it was, but... It's just that they get bought up so fast because there's so many people looking to flip them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other part that sucks about the whole thing. Is not only is everybody trying to seem like they've been in it for so long, you know, I'm more OG than this guy or whatever, but there's so many guys that are trying to make money off of it and flipping bikes, and the whole nature of that whole scene changed, you know, at some point. I'd say 5 years ago or so. You know,
money does that. Not to talk bad on them, but money just does that. Anytime the world can see like money down a path, they're gonna.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If
they're gonna mine the fuck out of it. You know,
Volvo 240s or BMWs or Volkswagens. It doesn't matter. You know, it start out as a genuine grand thing, and people are trying to help each other out, answering questions. You know, getting along. It's a great deal, and then it starts getting popular and starts gaining some ground. A little bit of money starts showing up. And that's where it doesn't matter what it is, FXRs or whatever. Like I said, it's just the way it goes.
It's kind of what's been taking place with performance baggers. It's like I don't hate the fact that there's money in it because money allows all the brands that make stuff, all the guys that myself. It allows me to make money doing what I do for a living. But what I think a lot of people will say is that like when people just buy into things, they tend to not invest anything other than their money into it. They don't invest their time, right? Yeah. So maybe they don't have the money, or they have the money but they don't have the time, like Joe Kidd used to say, right? So I'm going to buy this bike and I want it to work and do everything I want whenever it's time for me to ride it, whether it's performance bagger, an FXR, or whatever.
See, that I can even get. Like I said, the money thing, people don't want to make money. You can flip, I've flipped bikes. I'm not going to act like I didn't. Yeah. I sold out a lot of my stash when prices got to what I thought was like insane. Like when I'm like, okay, if a fairing was over $400, I wasn't gonna go look at it. You know, if it was down the street, at one point in time, that was what I had as my cap for an RP fairing. And so when they finally got to the point where they were like selling for $2,000, I'm like, I guess I'm gonna start selling stuff because I don't value it this much. So I'm not gonna act like money isn't a thing. For me, it was more like you're talking about OG people versus newer guys and stuff, and the performance bagger. That's when I started to win. People who've been in a long time are starting to like trash other people, like as if like the date you bought your first FXR fucking matters and like makes you cooler. Like it just started getting so silly to me. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like this doesn't make any sense. Like, first off, you're lying about when you got your FXR because we're all on social media. We can see when you got your first FXR. Yeah. And some people are lying about the date they bought it like that's some big thing. It's like, I feel like we're in middle school lying about our dick size again. You know, it's like, oh, I got a 12-inch dick. You know, it's like, no, you fucking don't, dude. It's like, why are you saying you bought an FXR in 2005? You were fucking in high school at the time. Like, you're so full of shit, you know? Yeah. And it just became this thing to where it's like, even the dudes who we're super cool, like coming up in this whole thing with, are all of a sudden like acting like they're better than me or better than one of my friends or something, just or this guy or that guy, just because they had a FXR before them. It just you take a step back and you're like, this is just a fucking motorcycle. Like, this is the dumbest thing I feel like I've ever been a part of, and that's what ruined it more for me than new guys coming in. Because there's a lot of new guys coming in. I've got friends who are newer on FXR. I say newer like 3-4 years because I've kind of been out of it for the past 2 years. I still talk to good dudes and stuff. It's like, you're not a bad dude just because you got into it recently. It's all just who you are as a person. And when you let it get to your head that you happen to buy something before it got cool, it's like, okay, it's like the dude is like, yeah, I used to like that band, but then they got popular kind of thing. It's like, it seems so silly to me. And for me, I don't have the fucking time or energy for any of that. And that's why it just kind of pulled me all out of it. And that's why I got 3 FXRs at the house that I can't find the motivation to finish just because I've lost a lot of the excitement for them, you know?
So, obviously building this FXR chopper, put in the hashtag and just go down the list on Instagram, like see all the different FXR choppers over the years that people have like at least tagged, right? And then I get far enough back where I start seeing your chopper that you were building for the People's Champ. And I was just, it put me back into it. I'm laying on the couch. It's like 2 a.m. I can't sleep. And I'm just doing this on the phone. And it just really put me back into, I remember doing those podcasts when the internet fucking hated you.
And you're talking about doing podcasts like in my kitchen.
Yeah.
I
remember
like
the first
way
one.
before studios and stuff.
Yeah. But just back in the day, man, like I was just thinking about.
Dude, when I started doing that, actually, I think we did one in my garage.
Yeah.
That was even before we did one in the kitchen.
The first time we did, I think the first podcast we did that actually made it onto the air was in your garage. Because the first podcast we did was in my garage, and then Jesse's computer blew up. So that was that. But then we did the 1 year, because like the first year, because we did me and Jaden, we got to get back on this, but on our Patreon, we did this deal where the two episodes per year, and I went from like, so basically remembering some of the behind the scenes of what we were doing at the time. And I was talking about like behind each episode, like, oh, so this podcast, and I had to go listen to some of them again to remember the setting, because we did so many in the first 6 months. Yeah. Like that's when they released the whole Pan America stuff, which
That's
was
when
28.
we did in the kitchen.
We did that in the kitchen at Garley. There was a lot of you did a road trip to that year that we did a podcast off of. There was a bunch, man. Just that first year was probably like 6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, where I feel like with bikes, like right now I've kind of taken a step back. I've just been busy. I got, like I said, my kids are kind of prime age for hanging out with, because I mean, you've got kids.
Yeah.
A lot of people listening got kids. I mean, some people love like toddlers and stuff. Like, oh man, when my kids were 3, it was so much fun. Maybe Dusty could chime in on that. But like, that's how some people are. For me, like when my kids were little, not the funnest fucking shit for me. I mean, maybe it's where I was at in my life, but like boring fucking people. They can't hold a conversation. They can't do shit,
Yeah.
Now my kids, what's that?
Other than shit.
But now they're teenagers. I can have a whole conversation with them.
Yeah.
They have their own opinions. We could talk sports. We could talk music.
Yeah.
It's like, and so I'm like, I'm trying to just spend as much time with them, and bikes just kind of got pushed to the side. Like they got a little bit less fun for other reasons, and then that on top, I'm like, it's not a family event. Motorcycles. Yeah. I mean, we all know this. Like we're lying if we act like that's not the truth. Like and that's why I can have a car. Throw the kids in it. We can go to ice cream. We can go to a car show, whatever. We can have fun, together. Where I can't, and I'm like 13, 17. That's kind of like prime age to where I can hang out with my kids as actual human beings, not little fucking things that just take stuff, And
you got girls though. So I have a 13-year-old boy, and he don't want no part of hanging out with me right now.
Same. My son, he got a girlfriend now, and I can't get him out of the room.
Yeah.
My daughter always wants to hang out with your son.
For real?
She's always like, when's Riley coming back over? I'm like, I don't know. Jace don't fucking know us anymore.
It's harder to get to your house because of the traffic nowadays. We just talked about it.
My kids were a lot funner a few years ago. My little girl's still sweet as she can be, but and my boy's doing his own thing. He went to football and all that, and he just started a new school, so obviously he's pretty preoccupied. But he ain't wanting nothing to do with Dad for a minute now.
My son's still just, we were on the Lowrider ST. I had brought him up here one day, and I actually had him like, hey, here's a ratchet, take this bolt out. And he seemed to have like that sparked a little bit of interest, like the hands-on thing, right?
Yeah. And
so that was kind of a cool thing. But my son's taller than me now, so I can't take him on the bike anywhere.
Shit. Why not?
Because it looks weird. It looks.
God damn, you're so vain, Jace.
it just looks weird, and I don't want to be that close to my son's junk, dude.
Right.
And
I don't know. I guess I don't got sons, so maybe it's just different.
yeah, it's just weird, you know. And but he's, you know, he's into music. My son's into music, so we kind of
What music's he into?
quite a
We're
bit.
gonna do like the 40-year-old man podcast right here.
Yeah.
Right.
So it started with a lot. Like when he really started to take a liking to music, we kind of went down the rabbit hole of like, you know, some more harder rock, some older rap. I kind of told him some stuff that I like a lot. He really kind of got into Slipknot for a little bit, and then it turned around to into like, you know, NWA type stuff and like Ice Cube and all that kind of.
Fun though, ain't it?
Yeah, yeah. We watched NWA together last time he came over, and it was fun, you know. So into that, but obviously right now, like he's into like, it's more like, I guess rap nowadays is kind of like on the line of pop punk. Is kind of where I guess they would kind
You're
of.
saying where rap is like
Is
new rap
now,
is
yeah.
like what pop punk was 20 years ago.
Oh, I think it
That's what you're
is pop punk now. Like I feel like it's kind
That's
of.
what I mean. Like you're saying new rap is like what pop punk was.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's just
I
got-
never thought it. I've never heard it put that way, but I could. I
It
feel
kind
what
of
you're
has like a little bit of a.
saying. Like pop rap, basically.
Yeah. So it doesn't. None. I mean, gangster rap doesn't exist anymore. It turned into trap, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's not. I hate to say like all new rap sucks. If we want to get on
Yeah, I'm
that,
not-
because
yeah.
a lot of people will say that like this guy over here, like you know. But there's a lot of good in new rap. But no, I definitely get what you're saying.
Yeah.
To where a lot of it is just super, just poppy, not the same shit we grew up on.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to have. To me, I feel like you always got to listen to music with new ears and not the ears of what you've been accustomed to.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't. I just can't get into this or whatever. But at the same time, you know, with
give
him,
it an honest try.
yeah, he likes this dude Gene Dawson, right? Which is kind of a underground dude that's kind of coming up, kind of rap, but then at the same time, the dude has some sounds that sound more kind of rockish, pop, or like punk rock kind of thing. So I mean, some of it I can dig, some of it's a little bit weird, but you know, it's got him to where, you know, we bought him a guitar for Christmas, so he's been playing a guitar. He's actually
Nice.
he showed me some shit last night. He's getting it. He's got a long way to go, but he's getting it and he's doing it. So I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah.
He's.
I mean, maybe you can relate, but that's for me. That's it. Like as long as I could get my kids into something they like it doesn't have to be what I'm into.
yeah.
I don't know if you
Then
get to
I'll-
that same point where it's like I just want you to be passionate about something.
See,
I'm
what,
like,
he has this that I have. I'm an obsessive person.
Yeah.
So when I'm into something, I obsess over.
Really?
He does the same thing. Yeah.
you're like that.
Oh yeah. I have a hard time.
Sarcasm.
That was sarcasm. Nobody could tell, Jace.
Whatever, man. No, but he has that characteristic.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm all right. So I see this from another perspective now. So I'm like, okay, well, how did I navigate my shit, right? So I'm trying to figure out ways to help him navigate his to be more productive with his obsessions and the things he likes. So it's tough, man. It's tough because right now, like, he's just not interested in a lot of other things. He's not interested in, you know, I say, hey, what kind of cars do you like? Do you ever think about what kind of car you'd want to get? He's like, I don't really care about a car. You know, he's like, he's on FaceTime with his girlfriend playing his guitar, like trying to show her something new and shit, you know, which will probably change in the next year. He's 13 as well.
Yeah, I mean that's how that shit.
But-
I mean, my 13-year-old every 6 months it's a completely new obsession.
Yeah.
But I got to give her his Snapchat because that's all she's on now too. And
I don't think
she's always
my son's
asking
not on
about him.
Snapchat. He just does Instagram and
Instagram. And she's
Yeah.
on there too.
yeah. But yeah, it's weird. But he's like, he doesn't post pictures of himself on Instagram.
No, none of the kids do. Neither of my kids post. They don't post anything. They just use it for like occasional stories and then like the chats and stuff. Not actually
okay.
posting
They
stuff.
use it like they just scroll like TikTok.
Yeah. Postings for
My
old
my
fucks
kids
like
ain't
us.
supposed to have it. I know they have Instagram accounts, but they don't post anything. They just get on there so they can scroll.
Oh.
Or
I've been on this kick the last couple of weeks, just finding old blogs and reading them, like from
Oh, yeah?
motorcycle guys. Fucking love them. I mean, it's kind of sucks to when you like Church of Choppers, for instance,
Yeah.
like their blog list is so long. Just where do I go back and start from?
Yeah.
You know, 2002
Yeah.
or what? But the ones that I have kind of dived into, and I just enjoy that connection to the things better. And I've enjoyed that more than just getting on my phone and doom scrolling
yeah.
down Instagram. And it's just a better use of my time. I feel like I'm gaining something from it.
I get on YouTube because of that. Like, I'll catch myself, I've been scrolling. Like, I get up in the morning or whatever, nobody's up yet, and I'm just scrolling and scrolling, and it's just I start to feel like I just get a headache from it. I'm like, I'd just rather get on YouTube and watch a guy like, watch, Fast Life Garage, Vice Grip Garage, somebody working on something that maybe I haven't seen before, and I learned something.
See, I feel like I've reached the end of YouTube, so I'm actually like I watch it so much whenever I'm
getting on that Vice Grip.
Oh, who's that?
You need to check out Vice Grip Garage.
Piss. You explain, because you turned me on to it, so you explain it.
So Vice Grip Garage is a guy named Derek. I can't pronounce his last name, so I won't try.
Yeah.
But he got his start like literally with his phone set up in his garage, doing revivals on a car that's been sitting for maybe 20 years, 30 years, or whatever. And now he's got like 2 million followers. He's got a show on Motor Trend. I can't think of the name of it right offhand, but huge YouTube scene. Got his own TV show now. He's sponsored by O'Reilly's, or at least they're help out in some sort of way. But then he got into doing like stuff at his garage. Then he was like, he'll go like 500 or 600, 800,000 miles away, dig something out of a barn, like with just a couple of toolboxes. Go through the wheels, brakes, get it running, see if we can make it home.
Nice. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool channel to watch, like I said. And you can go way back, because he's been at this for, I'm not sure how many years now, but quite a few. So like when I started watching him a few years ago, I watched a couple of videos, I got interested, and I was like, all right, I want to go back to day one. And it took me a while, because he releases a video every Friday, I believe it is. Took me a while to catch up to present day, and of course now it's YouTube, and I'm kind of hooked on it. So I'm right there every Friday, watch my Vice Grip Garage video, but learned a ton just because I'm not a mechanic in the car scene or whatever, but I've learned a bunch from just watching his videos, and it's entertaining. The guy's kind of, he's kind of goofy, right?
Cheesy, like kind of boomer humor.
Yeah,
what I like to call it, boomer humor.
But it's intentional, very much so. He says goofy thing, just the way he words stuff and the way he pronounces certain words, and just the
family friendly kind of.
Very family friendly.
Yeah,
absolutely. His family's grown so much now. He's his kids have a YouTube channel. They got Vice Grip. Was it Vice Grip Farm or something like that? They have one for their home place. Anyway, it's a good channel to check out. Very family friendly, very informative, pretty dang entertaining, in my opinion.
So we talked about on the way over, though, about like, I don't know if probably only. Oh damn! Never mind. I was gonna talk about Dusty, but I'll talk about him until he gets back. I figure half the people maybe know who I am, just because I've been on here a bunch. But I don't know how many people know Dusty, who I'm gonna point at, even though he's not here. He could tell about his story going to, he working. We're both welders, and he ended up leaving the whole welding field, that whole life and everything, and going to work in a motorcycle shop for a couple years, moving across country, family, going to do that, and how that was. He ended up coming back here. Yeah. And getting back into welding now, but just kind of give that a shot, and I feel like that's something probably a lot of people think about doing. Yeah, I mean, I kind of did the same thing, quit welding. I didn't go work on bikes, but I went to go work on cars.
Yeah, how was that time that you were working in that shop working on cars? Because you came last year. We did the Patreon thing that got fucked up, so it never got released.
I forgot. Yeah, that didn't get released.
But I remember walking away from that like, damn, that was good. Just the way we were talking about it, but. You were, because you left the welding job that you had been at GE working on the railroad stuff, and you went and took this job, which made less money, but you were working working on old cars, basically, restoration stuff.
Yeah, the first job, I have no idea what I've already talked about since that one didn't get released. Yeah. But I have no idea where that was at, but I quit working at GE to go work in a local shop. I was so fed up with the job. I'd just been working there for almost 8 years, and I was just sick of it. I had put in so much effort and stuff, and it was just the whole corporate, it's GE. Yeah. I was just over it. And it was production work, and I was just so bored trying to get fired. Couldn't get fired. So I'm like, I ended up, somebody else I know through motorcycles posted up that their buddy, who has a classic car shop, basically working on classic cars, was hiring. So I was like, well, fuck. I'm like, this sounds interesting. Hit him up. He's just like, yeah, come by. You know, I ended up going up there, talking to the guy, and he's like, yeah, hire you. I took more than 50% pay cut. Ridiculous pay cut. But I was like, fuck it. I was like, I got to do something different. So over it. So I went worked there for 6 months, kind of got my feet in it, learned it. I mean, ain't none of it rocket science, you know. I mean, mechanicing on new shit, old shit, cars, bikes, whatever. None of it's rocket science. I mean, you can get really good, like if you're talking about like doing like really high end shit, you know, that's one thing. But like, no, just basic mechanic stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yes.
It's not rocket.
It's obtainable.
Yeah. And so I was having fun doing it, and we're going to another hot rod shop. We're doing all like what I would call like good guys type builds, like, you know, like your typical $200,000-$300,000 car, like classic car, like 67 Camaro or whatever, 65 Mustangs, you know, that kind of things. The things you'll see at Good Guys.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. Worked there for a year, and essentially where I got is after I got stuck at GE for 8 years, just because I was just, you get comfortable at a job. Everyone knows this who works a normal job and isn't like Jace or Matt over here and willing to go out and take that chance on their own. You work a job, you get used to your paycheck, you get comfortable, you know what you can get away with at work, you know what you know
Yeah.
It's easy to keep your job, you're not worried with that, you got a family that relies on you, you just get real comfortable. Well, once I left GE, I was like, I don't ever want to get comfortable again. I was like, so I told myself every 6 months I'm going to, instead of asking a job for a review and see if I get a raise, I'm going to review the job and basically decide, do I want to stay here? So that's where I hit 6 months at that job, and I was just the first job, and I was like, no, I'm out. Like, you know, this isn't the quality I want to be at. Like, it was working on stuff I want to work on, not the quality. So I quit there, go to the second job after 6 months, same thing, kind of review it. I just needed more money, talked to him, he gave me more money. Year, I was just like, also not where I want to be. And that's when I was going to go back to Florida. And then Carlos hits me up.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up
Do you
over
think
there.
when he made the decision to quit his job and go to work at Dream Rides, that helped you also make this decision to
No,
go
it
your-
was definitely in line. Because, I mean, me and Dusty talk every day. And I have been wanting to. And then he did that. I actually talked to Jessup about going out there. Mm-hmm. The moving thing didn't work as well for me because my family wasn't on board. And I wasn't trying to really move everyone if they didn't want to. My oldest was adamantly against it.
Yeah.
So I decided not to, or I probably would have too, because I was talking to Jess about it. But that didn't really work out. But then I was just like, okay, well, what can I do? 'Cause she wanted to stay in her school district with all her friends that she's been in school with forever. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up just going the car route instead.
Yeah.
Because I also realized it's hard to make a living working on bikes. Like, maybe if you own your own shop, but then it's still not easy.
Yeah.
And then if you're talking about being an employee,
Yeah.
it's that much harder. There's just a lot more money in cars, like we talked about before. Like, I mean, spending 6 figures having a car built is considered on the low end usually. So there's a lot more money trickles down to where you can actually make a living working on them.
Not only that, but that's a year-round endeavor too.
Yeah.
You know, like people are into their cars.
Well, and they
all-
know it's
all
going to be a
year round.
few-year build too.
Yeah, that too.
Where a car or a bike, it's not, you know.
But well, bikes, a lot of it too is just the service. You know, you're not building choppers. You know, you're not building awesome baggers year round. You know, that's every great. The biggest deal is service, tires, and motor work. And in wintertime, nobody's thinking about that stuff.
Yeah,
You know, you're not doing that kind of. You might do some motor work in the wintertime because guys like John are smart enough to offer up, you know, some special deals. We'll do this kit or whatever, you know, do cam jobs at a reduced price during the wintertime while your bike's down anyway.
Yeah.
So you'll get a little bit of that. But for me, my meat and potatoes in that industry was services and tires.
Yeah.
The stuff that the other guys don't want to do, the stuff that keeps you busy, and you got to, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Because you're expected to pump that stuff out because it shouldn't take you very long to do it. I'm not going to sit over here and take 8 hours to do a cam job, and be all meticulous and stuff. Those guys are great. I'm not one of them. I'd rather bust ass and do 10 tire jobs in a day,
But
or
that
10 services or whatnot.
rolls into what I was talking about when you left, is if you wanted to talk about how that was being your average blue collar dude like me and you and probably 70% of the listeners on here,
Yeah.
and quitting your blue collar job as an electrician and a welder or whatever to go work in a motorcycle shop, and how that was as a grown ass man, not someone fresh out of high school.
Yeah, that's. I feel like everybody should go have a blue collar job before they get something like that. Instead of coming right out of high school, your parents put you through MMI. You've never really worked a real job. You have no work ethic, so it takes you 12 hours to do a cam job when realistically it ought to take you 4.
Yeah,
because you've never had to bust ass, and you've never had somebody standing over you saying, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." I'm sure if John could hire 5 pipeliners to go mechanic for him, he would do it in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, I'm the only one dumb enough to ever make that move. So, but yeah, a lot of people in the motorcycle industry just don't have a work ethic. They've either come from money and they do it because they just wanted to and they never had to make any money, or they don't have a family, or they don't have kids to take care of or whatever. So they just can take this job, and it's not a very serious job for a lot of people, unfortunately. And you end up with like parts sitting at somebody's shop, for 2 years. I mean, we've all done it. I've dropped bikes off and gone and picked them up and never had them touched.
Yeah.
And it's just there's not a whole lot of guys with a strong work ethic in that industry, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. When you guys first got here, is it the people that do have a work ethic are the ones that cost more money than you're willing to?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So sometimes, like the cost of people doing stuff for you, you're paying for all those things that aren't necessarily the attributes you think you want out of it, right?
Right.
Maybe this guy's a better painter, he does better designs, but I cost more money because I'm more professional and I handle shit, right? And that's the stuff you don't see. That's the stuff you don't really. Everybody says they on time.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The price that I quoted, all these things, but
that's what everybody says they're gonna do.
Yeah. But then when you get, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm fast, but I also don't tell someone that I'm fast.
Right.
When someone comes to me and goes, "Hey, how quick do you think you can do this bike?" I'm like, I got an opening at the end of this year, and we can assess the time it's going to take to do it at the end of the year when you drop it off. But right now, like I couldn't.
Well, I got to go pick up some tins that I dropped off 2 years ago that they're still not done. I just got to go pick them up untouched because it's been 2 years. And that's your homie.
That's your homie. You can pick up Corey's while you're there too. It's been sitting for a long time.
there too?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep. For his RD, right?
Oh,
RD?
that's right. Yeah, they are there.
Is that a RD or just an RT?
No, RT. It's
Okay,
84
yeah.
RT.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff sucks. But I mean, I guess what you were kind of chime in on what you're saying. The work ethic. That's one of those things that, like, I think work ethic comes out of like the will to survive kind of thing.
I would say hunger. That's
the hunger. Because if you know that you have a safety net, I think that you always will kind of sandbag.
It's just different. Like when you work, like you don't work with people because like you have your own thing. But like when I work with people, Dusty probably feels the same. Like I work with people, I'll be like, well, what happens if like you don't have? Like I asked somebody this recently. I'm like, what happens if you go to work and like they're like, yeah, our company's shut down. Like we don't have a job. I'm like, oh, I'll go move in with my parents. I'm like, you're gonna move your wife and 3 kids in with your parents? And like, yeah. I'm like, bro, like that's not an option. Like, like it's crazy to me. Like that's an option for some people. I'm like, you're a grown fucking man, and that's your fallback. Like you ain't got savings.
The crazy.
You're not like like me. Half the reason I busted my ass at most every job I've had is because I got all those connections. Everybody I work with would be like, yeah, they'll vouch for me. Where I could call up so many people and be like, hey, I need a job. And I'm like, yeah, I'll vouch. Like, I'll get you a job with me because they know I'll fucking work.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you've got that big ass safety net ready to catch you, then it's just like everything just whatever, It's like, I mean, if shit don't work out, it's cool.
Yeah.
My dad will pay for it. And I'll be like, you fucking 30 years old and your dad's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Like, it just...
Well, that's just one of the many factors, I think. One of the main factors that plays in a work ethic. But I mean, because there's obviously people that's got like a safety net that just still like it's in their DNA to just kind of go for it, whatnot. You know, maybe they have a sports background, something like that.
I think that's important. Sports.
You know, but I mean, I have a hard time having people work for me. You know, I expect a lot out of people. You know, and it's, you know, guys like Brad will say like, oh, you know, you were really hard on Jesse when he was here, but then when Jesse went to work for Brad for a while, he was like, dude, he's kind of a piece of shit. You know. He's not a piece of shit anymore, but he was back in the day. But it's like, it's hard, you know, obviously, anytime you have your own shit, it's always hard to find someone to care about your shit the way you care about it, right?
Well, I feel like you can't expect someone to.
I feel like, but if I worked for somebody, then I would be that way for them.
In a sense, because like the shop I was working at, the hot rod shop, like he was that way. He was always with the family stuff, this and that. Like, he would actually tell us he expected us to work off the clock to get shit done. And I'm like, bro, like,
yeah, those kind of
ain't,
things I'm
like,
talking about.
I'm like,
yeah.
this ain't, like, he's just like,
When
you know,
you're
you should care about
self-employed-
this as much as I do. I'm like, he's like, you should be working, you know, through lunch and stuff. And like, you know, and we're like, we get paid for that? And he goes, no, you know, we got to give you a lunch. And I'm like, then what the fuck, I ain't working through lunch.
that's manipulation is what that is. I've always said this, like when I worked for guys like Gary, like I was the best employee that he's ever had and that's why I was able to do my own thing because of my demeanor. Like I didn't look, when you're self-employed, you don't look at, I think that when I walk into a shop to work for somebody, I look at it as how do I be a good employee, understanding what it takes to run a business, right? Because if you think about like your job as just being an employee, then you're thinking about what all this thing owes me because I gave you my time. Well, let's just say that, you know, I've used this analogy a lot on the podcast, but let's just say you're taking home $5,000 a month from said job. Technically, you need to help produce $15,000 a month for that job to make it valuable for you to even have a job there. Because if you're only helping them produce $6,000 a month, then you're just working here to cover your own ass. You're not helping the company maintain its roof over its head or all these other things. And when you work for yourself and you understand all the things that happen behind the scenes, you kind of have a different approach to things. And it'd be easy to walk up to this dude and go like, well, what are you doing on this car? Well, if you're expecting me to work off the clock, that means that you didn't budget this thing correctly. You gave an unrealistic price, and now you're gonna be over budget, right? So that's on him. You know what I mean? That's not working for somebody that's got their shit together. But if you have worked for a company or a brand that has their shit together, I know that I would be a valuable asset because of my just understanding what it takes to run a business. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't have that. They only think about what that place owes them and not what they can do for this. And there's no pride, and this could be because of the brand itself, like you were just saying. There's no sense of pride of like, I work for this company. You know what I mean? Like I'm a proud company man. You know what I mean? Like that. I
feel like that's gone away a lot.
Yeah.
In my sense, I mean, the way I've seen it, because the company doesn't give a fuck about you 90% of the time.
For sure.
Too.
Yeah.
Like you're so replaceable. It's like, why am I supposed to care so much about you when you don't care one bit about me? And then with the job market the way it is now, like, I mean, I remember when it was so hard to find a job, but now it's so easy. It's like, you expect me to care way more about you than you do about me.
Yeah.
But I could leave here today and have a job before I even make it home. You know? It's like, it's a weird position. And it's just like that. Nobody values longevity. I mean, this is a thing that's been going on to where it's just like a lot of times new hires, like maybe you've been at a job 5-10 years and they'll hire someone on at more than you make now, to where it makes no sense to stay at companies anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a big problem going on in a lot of industries, to where it's just like nobody wants to stay because it's easier to make more. It's way harder to get a raise than it is to just go somewhere else and get paid more.
Yeah.
So nobody values
keep in mind,
sticking around.
I'm talking about a small business, not a corporation when I'm talking about stuff. So I've worked for Walmart for a while,
well, even small, like,
I stole every day.
Even like, but
every day.
Even like the shop I was working at, you're talking about a shop that employs 13 people. That's considered small business, and very stingy on giving raises. But then as cost of living goes up and it's harder to get people in, hire somebody on at $10 more than your regular employees work who've been there for years. And that's just kind of the norm because, well, if he's been working for this, he ain't doing anything to deserve more. But then also I can't attract anyone at that price range. So I got to up it to $10 more an hour to attract anyone to come in. So now this new guy is making $10 more than you are when you've been there for 5 years. And that's just kind of the mentality, whether it's small shops or big shops. It's just like, well, they don't feel like I need to give anybody a raise. And it's a weird situation. I mean, I'm not in a bad one now, but I mean, like in the workplace in general, like as I've been jumping from a couple of different jobs now, it's like that just seems to be the way it is. Mm-hmm. Is most new guys are coming in at more than guys who are loyal to the company are, and that's why people are less loyal to jobs now.
For sure.
Because like you're saying, like people used to be proud to be like, yeah, I'm a GE guy. Like, I was at GE for years. But nobody's like that anymore because everyone's like, yeah, I'm a G guy and I get fucked. Like I'm not proud of it.
Yeah. So the alternatives, like, you could try your hand. I mean, I think that the best thing to do is kind of like what you always had, where you had your job, and if you can find a way to do some of the stuff on the side in your garage, like it's the best fucking place to be. Like I've always felt like if I had a good paying job that covered life, like I go 9 to 5 into this job and it covers this house, that car I drive to work, the food in the fridge, insurance, all that. I'm even, right? Mm-hmm. But I have from 6 p.m. when I got home from traffic all day long till I had to be back at the shop at 7 a.m., right? If I had that 4-hour window every day of the week, guaranteed, I could easily paint a helmet or two a week, and make, or at least a helmet a week for a month on top, that's like stupid money, right? Like I would love to have that situation. I'd never be able to travel, but
you
financially,
it's not like you couldn't find a shop that's willing to hire you as a painter.
I don't think so.
You could.
No.
You're saying your paint skill is not good enough?
My paint skills, what I'm good at is a very, very small niche versus like I'm not a painter. Like I've said it a million times, like I can't paint your car.
But I'm not gonna paint the roof of my car, right? You're gonna do a little lowrider shit on it, right, Jace?
Where? How? When? It won't fit in my booth. Your
car
is longer than
work. I could use.
I could do that.
You gonna do it?
I could do that.
Can I hold you to that?
Can I hold you to my exhaust next month?
No, I don't even know if I want it done. I just wanted to see if I could get you to paint roof of a car because you always tell me how you're not a car painter.
No, I just I'm talking about like painting cars, right?
I know what you mean.
Like maybe 20 years ago, whenever they were painting choppers left and right for all the Big Dog and Iron Horse, I could get a good paying job doing what I know how to do. But my biggest skills as a painter is only valuable in my setting as my own brand. I could maybe go work at one of these like race helmet painting companies, but I'm not really into that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so like to have like something where I could do this on the side is the way to go. And I think that what I'm getting at is with people is if you have a good job and it covers your life and you have the energy and the time and the want to fuck around with stuff in your garage and you have the work ethic, you're mechanically inclined or whatever, that's how shops start. That's how they truly start. Because when your garage outgrows your job, then this is a serious thing that you can do.
The problem is that time you're talking about is a time I used to use. Is like I used to get off of work at 3:30. We work 5 to 3:30. Get home 4:30, 5, and then from 5 to 9 working in the shop. But that's also got to be family time.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm at now. It's just like that's not worth it to what either I can make $100 a day working in the garage, whatever it is, build a handlebar, work on an exhaust, whatever. Make a little bit of money. Is that worth missing that time? Or I can build something I could build a bike or a car, whatever for myself. Is that worth missing the time? For me, it's not anymore. Maybe once the kids are grown or something, but then still, I got my wife, man, we want to go do some shit,
Yeah.
And that's what you're sacrificing by doing that. And that's part of what I feel like is a big problem. And I call it a problem just because I've kind of worked myself out of it, but with our generation to where everything's all about the hustle mentality. Everyone's always talking about the hustle mentality. You got to be hustling. Yeah. It's like you go to work, you got to, and then you get off work, you got to be hustling, make as much money as you can, do this and that. And it's like, okay, but like there's more to life than just trying to stack as much money as you can.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you believe that because, I mean, look at how much time you take off to go do your traveling and stuff. And yeah,
Well,
there's time to hustle and there's time not. But the way I feel like it's been preached these past few years lately, I don't know, what is it, like 3-5 years, it seems like it's become a really big thing, like the Gary V mentality, you know, it's like everybody's
Andy
hustling
Frisella,
and stuff. It's like, you know, it's like
Danny Dixon, 180 to Dream.
well, yeah, all of that. It's just like, it's just hustle. So it's like, okay, well, when do you enjoy yourself? When do you enjoy your family? When do you do all this? And it's like, because before you know it, you're hustling, and then you're old. And everyone, you don't know how you're going to age. I mean, when I was 30, I was perfect health. No problems, you know. I was, you know, I go work, I'm working out. I could go run. I could do whatever, you know. I mean, yeah, I still work out and stuff. I still run. But it's like, I've got numerous health issues now and stuff that make a lot of things a lot harder, you know, just that shit that just comes with age, you know. And it's like, if you're hustling before you know it, it's like, I mean, you don't know you're gonna live to be 80. You might die at 60 and stuff, and you just spend all that time hustling, make all this money for what, you know? And because somebody on fucking Instagram or YouTube told you, you know, you gotta hustle, man, you gotta make money, you know, don't take no time off, don't rest. What the fuck you doing sitting at the house? You know, you're gonna play Monopoly with your kids, you could be out there making real money. You know, it's like, start a YouTube, start this, you know? And I feel like I got sucked into all that. Like, I was always hustling since I was a fucking kid. And it's like, it just got to the point, it's like, what am I doing this shit for, you know?
Yeah. But that's the thing about, like, living life, though, is that people have to find those truths for themselves. Yeah. Right? Because you were attracted to this idea of hustling and creating something, and that's why you went down the path. But then you found through going down this path that it's not, that what you're sacrificing was more important than what you were gaining. And that's a perspective thing that I think everybody has to find. My first shop that I ever had, my goal was to build the biggest shop in Dallas that had everything that you could come to one place and get it done. That was a nightmare. It was a nightmare because it was so hard to manage all these different bodies that had to come together to make this thing happen. And I realized that working by myself or in a small crew was better. So it's all about,
you gotta find out what works for you.
You gotta stab at things a lot and figure out what it is. And I think that the thing about, like, I think that the hustle thing that's gone over the last, like, 5 years or so is just, it's another Tony Robbins thing that's just selling. There is truths in the things that they're saying, but they're truths that are applied to certain things in life. You know, like, if you're in a business where you do have to kind of, like, hit the iron while it's hot, then you have to have that mentality, right? Because that's just that specific thing that you're into. But if it's, like, just overall, like, you can build a YouTube channel over the course of 10 years, like you were just talking about with the Vice Grip thing. Yeah. He didn't have to be like, I got to have this thing have 1 million followers by the end of the year, otherwise it's not successful. Like, most of the good YouTubers out there that have tons of people on it, they've been doing it for years and years and years and honing it, right? That's not attractive to these people when they're doing these little.
Well, that's almost, I feel like, right in line to where this whole hustle mentality is like, you need to get on it, to where, like you're saying, like, if this is something you enjoy, like the YouTube thing or something, you slowly grow, but like this idea that everything has to be go 24/7. Like, I'm not saying, like, go be lazy, but fuck, I mean, even if you want to be lazy, Like, if you just want to go to work your 40 hours, come home, sit around, watch TV the rest of the day. I feel like people need to do what they want to do, though. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing, is like, while telling people what to do, basically saying don't listen to what people fucking say, and like, don't do just because somebody's like, you need to go work your 40 and then come home and work another 40 on your own thing, you know, and make sure you're always working. It's like, do what makes you happy.
Yeah,
you know?
and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've been doing that for the last 4 years now. You know, like, trying to grow this podcast, it's like you're working a full-time job with paint, and then I'm putting in almost full-time hours with this podcast if you put it all together. Or that's part-time. Yeah. You know, and you're trying to get it to where this thing starts to make enough money and you can live off of it so that you can kind of just let them cross, and still got to do this because you got to cover it, but the higher it goes, the less. Yeah. So it's like you're working 2 full-time jobs until one can actually be, like, viable. But in this business of podcasting and doing this, like, I can't be like, you know, this is one of the issues that I have with my brother, because he had that mentality that he didn't want to put all the work in to do this, and that's fine. But for me, I knew that to get this where this needed to be, I needed to be available. Even if I didn't want to do a podcast when I had an opportunity, I needed to bust my ass to be able to go out and get bigger names on here, or just names from other parts of the country. It's just everything that I've done's worked. I'm not saying that everything I've done was the right way, the most sound way,
but it
just
might
the
have
way
been
that felt right at the time.
Right for you.
Yeah.
And that's more my point, is like, just because it's right for you doesn't mean somebody else should work 2 jobs. Because I feel like you got to like think about what's right for you in your life and your priorities and whatever you got going on, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like, oh, Jace fucked off these priorities. I just mean like whatever is priority in your life. You got there. Just because Jace said, hey, I painted and did podcasting means you should go do your job and podcast and do 2 jobs just because it worked for Jace. Like, if that's not what's priority for you, then why are you trying to be just like Jace?
What I think the message that, say, some of the motivational hustle culture speakers are missing is that they're never telling you based on what you're trying to do. It's always like, I can go buy this at a garage sale and put it on eBay and make 25 cents. And if I do that 5,000 times a day, then I make $10. Hell yeah. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's just, but people like that's snake oil salesman shit. Like, yes, there is probably some truths in that you can take those words and apply them where they might fit in your world. But that's the difference. That's why, they say like they can give everybody the how I built my whatever. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right? But I think people just need to understand that, like, if you have the energy and you have the time and you have the desire, I think that's one of the things that you're kind of talking about, is that you don't have the desire to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But when you did, you tried it. Everybody's got to try shit, man. I think the worst part is when you are 20 years old and you do have a dream, but you have that welding job that's taking up a lot of your time, and you never try that because it could have been something.
Yeah.
Right? And you might have to use some of that hustle culture mentality to make that happen. But the regret of like, I just don't want to do that because I do want to go get fucked up at the pool this weekend at the apartment complex. Right? Those are the choices you make at certain.
Fuck, dude, we can't even talk about 20s. Like, I fucked off my 20s so hard.
I didn't. I busted my ass, and I think that some of the things that a lot of the things that I missed out on my 20s, people are watching me live them now. But I'm making a lot of sacrifices now too. I don't have health insurance. I have no savings. If I wreck and my hands get fucked up, dude, get ready for the GoFundMe, dude. It's gonna be fucking massive. Yeah. Like my life is not necessarily like.
Bro, just move back in with your dad. Just kidding.
I mean, I live in my mom's house technically. I mean, I pay the mortgage, but the thing is that like I have dreams of being somewhere in life, like, but that path to it was paint until I saw a lot of roadblocks in that, and the door open for podcasting. And I don't think podcasting is going to be the thing that gets me there either. But I think that this is on this path will open up a door that will allow me to. But I just, you just got to stay. You got to at least put 40 hours in. You know what I mean? That's what I say, at least. Yeah. But if if I'm doing a podcast, and I love traveling, that's one of the things that I love the most in my life, and it's a selfish endeavor, but. It's a choice, like I've always said, or I've kind of, when me and my son's mom split a long time ago, I kind of lost that opportunity to be the dad I wanted to be, at home every day, a part of his life. I had to take another approach at being his dad that I kind of wasn't looking forward to do, because that's now the way that my dad had to be a dad to me. So I've tried to be better than my dad ever was. But even now, like, as certain things in my life have started to create opportunities, it's like I've been waiting my whole life for this fucking opportunity, so I'm not saying that I'm gonna skip my son's situation to go chase an opportunity, but right now my son doesn't even give a shit if he comes over or not, So it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to plan another trip so that we can have something special together somewhere in the country as just a me and him thing. But for now, I got to keep chasing these dreams, because these dreams are the only thing that's going to pay my bills later on. My kids are probably going to hate me, So I need to make sure that I have something to kind of cover my ass in the next 30 years whenever I, don't have a 401k. I'm trying to sell fucking FXR fairings that I acquired over the years to kind of, pay the nursing home fucking mortgage. You know what I'm saying? It's different strokes. I mean, but I chose life like this, to not be in a corporate setting, to not have these comforts at the cost of like a 40-hour work week. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not complaining and saying that people have it better and I have it worse. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, the perks of my life is I get to travel and ride motorcycles, but that's because I make all these other sacrifices.
Yeah.
That some people can't make those sacrifices. They can't afford to not live with health insurance. I'm rolling that fucking dice every day. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, it could all blow up tomorrow. That's the kind of the uncertainty of my fast life.
Yeah.
If you will, So,
Yeah, I get it. There's I was in the union for a long time, so insurance wasn't a problem.
mm-hmm.
And then in like 2018, their work just pretty much came to a screeching halt. So in non-union, there's no insurance in that deal, Or if there is, it's so expensive it doesn't make sense. Like, you could just put half of what it would cost in a savings account. So if something did happen, you could use that cash, because we're pretty healthy. We don't go to the doctor a whole lot. Eye doctors and dentists is basically what takes up that money. But, and then in 2019, all the pipeline work stopped.
Yeah.
And that's when we went to Tennessee, and unfortunately that deal didn't work out, The shop was great. Probably my favorite job I've ever had. But just, like I was telling him earlier, he's a 42-year-old man with 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and a wife, has no business working in a motorcycle shop unless he owns it. And then he better be pretty damn good at it, like John is. A lot of dudes that do own shops aren't pulling their weight either. So I'm trying to get back into the pipeline deal. There's no insurance. I'm gone a lot. I'm not around my kids a lot. But then when you are off, like I'll say I go and work 4 or 5 months, and hopefully this is kind of why we picked the Aledo area, because there's a lot of work in that general area that maybe I'm not home every day, but maybe I'm home on the weekends, or, something like that. I will still have to travel some, but I'll be gone a lot is what I'm getting at. And I won't be around my kids a lot, but when I am home, say I'm gone for 5 months, and then I'm laid off, and I'm home for a month. But I'm home for a month. I'm not getting up and going to work every day. Hopefully, those layoffs are during the summertime when everybody else is home too.
Yeah.
And you can take those vacations. You've made enough money to take a vacation.
Yeah.
You're not scratching, for a living, scratching to pay your mortgage or rent or whatever it is. So you're home for a whole month, and you can take trips and enjoy your kids and be around them and make memories and things like that. Or you can be at home working in a shop, whatever, 40, 50 hours a week. And you're home, but everybody's mad because you're broke.
Yeah.
And nobody's happy when they're broke. I don't give a shit what people say. Oh, well, I was home when I raised my kids. If you're broke, it don't matter.
When you're a man, the only thing that you can say, everybody bases you based on how much money you bring into the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like your worth as a man in most relationships.
Absolutely.
I got to interject on that one. I felt, in one sense, I fully get, like, it's definitely nice not being broke. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we all know that. Like, I made more money at GE than I have any other since I've left there. But, like, Kylie, was it like 6 months ago, my 13-year-old, like, she was telling me she wanted something. I forget what it was. I need some shoes. Like, she's on to shoes and stuff, And I was just like, I mean, if that's what you want, I'm like, that means I got to go back to work. Because I'm like, I'm working 40 hours a week now. Like, this is before I started this job with cars, working ridiculous hours. And I was just like, right now, I'm like, I'm not working much. I'm like, how I used to not be home barely ever. I was like, I come home late. I left before he went to school. I came home like damn near his bedtime. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, well, if that's what you want, I'm like, I could go back to working like that and we can buy you that. And I was like, I'm like, you just tell me. I'm like, is that what you prefer? And she was just like, nah. She's like, I could live without that. Mm-hmm. And I prefer you picking me up from school every day.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. Like, I get, like, there's a sense to, like, not, like, you say, like, what, as a man, your only valued as much as what you bring your worth or whatever. But I feel like it does go a little bit deeper than that. Like I definitely get the sense of
when you're talking about shoes,
stuff.
but when you take that 2 more steps in and you're like, okay, now I need help paying the light bill, the rent.
Well, honestly,
now the car's fucked up. Like
the standards, yeah.
If you keep a baseline there, you're going to be always pretty good. But
if you're talking about luxuries versus just barely scratching it out, can we go to the grocery store? Are we going to be able to make our mortgage payment? We don't have insurance. Couldn't afford insurance anyway. There's a line there, and that's the one I'm talking about.
And I get what you're saying too. Yeah, there's definitely that. Man, it just sucks, man. Like that's life, though. I mean, fuck. If the world was the way the world was when we were all born, pensions, those kind of things, like getting a good, corporate job or just a good blue collar job and being able to retire on that shit, like it just doesn't exist.
See, this is a thought I haven't. It's more of a fresh thought, one I haven't really flushed out. But and what you were just saying about like how the world used to be, I almost feel like this is also. I was thinking about this when we were talking about the hustle culture. Part of the problem with the prevalence of the hustle culture is everyone's gotten used to, like, you hear this all the time. People in California be like, yeah, you can't live in California if you don't got to hustle after your job. I've had a lot of friends in California tell me, I'm like, dude, I don't know anyone in Texas who doesn't have a side hustle. I'm like, almost, unless somebody has, like, their parents helping them, like, they come from money, pretty much everyone I know has their job and then some kind of side hustle. Whether it's making a lot of money or just, like, their job pays their bills and their side hustle just kind of pays for their luxury stuff. Like I was talking about, like their kids' Jordans or whatever, But I'm like, I almost, like I said, new thought, fresh off the brain.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like the whole hustle culture mindset has almost helped propagate that to where jobs know they don't have to take care of you like they used to. Like you're talking about like the 50s, 60s, they had to provide you with a decent living. Because it wasn't as easy to just pull up a hustle on the internet or this or that. It's like, I sell shit on the internet. I flip this or that. It wasn't as easy back then. To where now it's like jobs like, yeah, man, as long as I can make sure they're able to survive, I don't got to pay them more because, they can go out and hustle if they really want to live better. If they want to live better than just scrape and buy, they'll find a way to hustle for that shit. I'll cover their bills, but they can hustle for the rest.
What about the fact that there's so many other things that we have a monthly bill now and these other things that didn't exist before? Like I pay $300 plus a month for cell phones, right? Not just for myself, my wife included, but like that's $300 a month just in the phone. Not even in the old house phone back in the day was what, like $40 a month, $30?
And you gotta pay for, or at least in Alito, we gotta pay for Wi-Fi. And you got Netflix, Hulu.
See, at first, all the streaming platforms, it made sense to pay for those rather than paying for $106 Dish Network or something like that. But now that everybody caught on to the game, it's like by the time you get all the channels that you would actually watch, or fuck, I want to watch the new Winning Time on HBO, so now I got to have HBO, right? So all these different things like add up, and it's you can't own a program anymore. Like I have a lot of computer programs I have to use in the shop for different things that we do. And
it's all subscription, right?
Yeah, everything's subscription. The program that I barely use to cut vinyl for whenever I have to make stickers and stuff, like stencils, that's $70 a month. Now, if I all day long was doing vinyl, it makes sense. But that's $840 a year that I have to pay on that program. The Adobe Suite programs that I'm going to complain about it, but know that I get the most bang for my buck. I pay $74 a month for the Adobe programs, but that gives me Lightroom for me to edit photos, Photoshop to edit, the podcast.
That's a lot.
Put that, right? And then it gives me the video program I need to do YouTube videos. Like I get a lot for my money there.
Yeah.
But I can't buy any of those programs. You used to be able to buy Photoshop for $600.
Pay one time. Done.
Yeah.
Now tell me though, I don't know on like the Photoshop thing, but with the subscription versus buying. Like, okay, so say it used to be $100 you bought Photoshop program, right?
It's like
whatever
$700.
it was, but just for the sake of argument, $100 you bought the program, and then every 3 years, 2 years, whatever, they came out Photoshop 4, then Photoshop 5, whatever, and so you had to buy it again. with the subscription, are you getting more frequent updates though, to where
You get updates constantly. So
That's
like I
what I
said,
mean, so,
it's
like-
worth it, but apply that to every little thing.
Yeah, no,
you
I
know?
definitely get it. I was just more asking because I wasn't sure on something like that.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing that's not a subscription anymore. I mean, there's some things that we've always like known to be subscriptions, like the TV channels that we like get outside of regular. But now it's like, okay, well, I feel like I'm too old in my life to listen to commercials on YouTube, so I pay for the premium subscription on that.
That's the thing is, man,
I'm too old for
I just
this.
sit there and my thumb hovers on the skin.
fuck
The
that.
problem is you don't got enough. You don't got enough siblings, man. I got 9 brothers and sisters, man. We all just pay for one thing, and I've got everything. Oh, I pay for Netflix, and I pay for.
I don't want no
Stars.
one messing up my algorithms.
No, we all got our own profile on each thing.
Not on
Man.
YouTube. That's not how it works.
No, YouTube. I got YouTube Premium. I don't pay for it.
You're the reason why Netflix wants to change everything.
That
though.
well, fortunately, Netflix is the only one doing that, and that's one of the 2 things that are my siblings that I pay for, and they're all complaining about it. And I'm like, look, I didn't choose who decided to crack down on this, but I'm like, nothing I could do to help you out on that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, there's just so many things. So like the monthly thing, like, and every once in a while, like I'll have to go back through my expenses every month and just, all right, what did I add? Why am I right here? But I don't have I have a car payment that's very I think it's very average. It's not that much. I pay like $550 a month for my Jeep, right? I know people that are paying a lot more, but I'm also like not trying to get the newest shit every time it comes out. Like I'm good with it. $220 a month for my Lowrider ST. That's a luxury, obviously. The shop kicks my ass. I told you about that earlier. I live cheap. My house, the mortgage, all that stuff is cheap, man. It's trust me, I would
You're talking
almost
to the number 1 Jew. I know all about cheap. We live cheap as fuck too.
But like I said, I shape my whole life and everything I do based on what I want to do in my life. You know, I like traveling. I like, you know, I want to be able to watch, you know, the premium YouTube without having to worry about it. So
And once you go premium, it's hard to go back.
it's hard to
on
go
that
back.
one.
Yeah.
I haven't made that move yet.
Don't, because it's
And I'm
a
not going.
lifetime
If you watch a lot of
investment.
YouTube, oh, it's 10 times. It's way better than.
The person who was
I'm
paying it
I'm
for
sure it
didn't
is.
one time for like a couple weeks, and I was like, "What the fuck is this all about,
Yeah.
man?"
It's like you're like, what is this
suck.
commercial? You can't turn your phone off and listen to it.
That's the big
Yeah,
thing too. Is
yeah.
you could turn it off and listen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can just set it down. You could turn it off and.
Yeah. I turn the Rain channel on at night just to go to sleep. Just let it play Rain.
Whoa. Now he's just showing off.
I just drink.
I just
Go to
drink.
sleep.
But back to bikes. So which FXR on the FXR tour are you most excited about aside from Justin's, since it's clearly
Well,
the best?
Yeah.
What are the rest of you cake decorators gonna do?
Well, the
What do you
rest,
think? Who do you think is building the second best? No,
Man, honestly,
not the second best. But who are you most excited to see done? Which one are you? Which one's really just? I mean, I don't. Not to say one's better than the other, because I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're all in good. But like, which one's just speaking to you that you're really excited to see how it's going to come together?
I think because my eyes right now, I have chopper eyes. I
Yeah.
think that I'm more keen to the way Rennie's bike is coming out, and now Bare Knuckle Paul's. I knew Paul
Yeah, I
was
saw
going.
Paul's. I was liking that.
I knew Paul was building a chopper, but he's doing a monoshock chopper. So the way that
But the
he's
stance looks great as it is. That's why
I mean, he's from the D-rate capital of the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, it's like, but that I'm interested in that. And then of course, I just found out that we have another person that's also doing a monoshock thing.
Oh, really?
In the I don't know if they put it out there, so I'm not going to say who it is yet. But the diversity in the style of FXRs that are being built is what I love the most, because there's almost everything. You know, there's you know, like Justin's kind of building a lot of one-off parts, kind of similar to his bagger that he did, but he's
The Billet King.
The Billet King, yeah. I have a cool little meme I made for him.
Is there a name for him yet on like something like that? Or
No, he's
can we come up with one right now?
well, he's number one, so that's the main thing that he is. He's number one.
Also, to go back to Paul, he could pull off the stance on.
So I made that for Justin and
Yeah,
It's
the
funny.
CNC machine.
yeah.
Paul's-
FXR Tour Builder of the Year is a Haas machine.
Paul's so damn tall.
Yeah.
That he can build a bike with a stance that most other guys can't pull off, just like
Yeah.
the blue bike, because he's just so damn big. It's
What-
I'm anxious to see his.
Well, but while that's true, and like his other chopper he built is so ridiculously big if you see it in person.
Yes, it
and
is.
like
Like the handlebars are
a
above my
normal
head.
human being like me and Dusty, 5'10", or even
I'm 5'7" on a good day.
I'm
are you
5'9".
both midgets. Okay,
I'm 5'9".
I figure we're already demonetized. We could throw things around, right?
Midgets.
But yeah, no, like I couldn't ride that thing. It's huge. I mean,
I sat on it.
He stretched out on it.
I sat
But-
on it at his shop, and in my hand, I was higher than my shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, he looks stretched out, and he's not a small guy.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at is, what people don't realize is a lot of these bikes are, it's almost more of an optical illusion how big they are. Just because, I mean, like, we're looking at the one you're building there, which is stretched like 4 or 5 inches up. And, like, I mean, Kevin is, I mean, you guys are giants to Kevin. And I built the FXR chopper for him. And he rode that thing to Sturgis. And that thing is like, I think it's like 5 inches stretched up, too. And I know when I built it, and a lot of people were like, like, it's cool. It doesn't really look that rideable. And Kevin's, what? How tall is Kevin? 5'3", 5'4"?
Yeah, 5'5" at best.
And-
And that bike's not. Just people blow my mind with the questions. Like, can you even ride that bike? I'm like, it's a very mild chop. Like, what the hell are you?
But like your ass to bar like positioning is basically like a stock FXR with like maybe 10-inch risers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like, no, it's not low, but it's not like you're even reaching. And that's why, like, I just to kind of settle out, I've done that since you mentioned, like, there's a handful of choppers being built for the FXR thing. Like, these aren't unrideable bikes.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
they have to ride them. That's the thing about it.
But it's not even like you're just gonna force yourself to from Colorado to the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
They're
this is a
very-
bike you could easily take across country if you figure out a storage situation. But as far as like positioning goes, it's not.
Well,
it's
that's-
not crazy. It's
you
not
know,
a crazy position.
When Corey was over here earlier, we were kind of diving into this, and we were kind of getting a little philosophical on the concept of building a bike, right? And being a bike builder is kind of like being an artist, right? It's almost not really. It's almost something that someone gives you, you don't give yourself, right? Because everybody's idea of what a bike builder is so fucking unobtainably realistic or unrealistic nowadays. That it's like it's easier to say like I just customize bikes. I just make them not look like they did when they came out of the factory, right?
The cake decorator dude.
Yeah.
I searched him up on Facebook. His Facebook's not private. His Instagram is.
Yeah.
He rides like a stock like.
Sweet Road King.
He rides a stock Road King. So like. For,
I'm the dude's like it was funny. I think that whole situation on the group thing or on the thing yesterday was just. I think that some people just don't know how to make jokes where it doesn't come off like being an asshole, right? Because we all joke a lot, and we could probably say some stuff on our Instagrams across to each other that we get that for outside looking in is going to come off very like, fuck that dude. Why would he say something like that? But you know what I mean? I just
he
think
could take everyone out for steak dinners or something and make it up to him. So,
Yeah.
And then everyone will like.
But you know the thing about like I guess the thing that I've been kind of like really diving into about like this FXR, obviously I'm not trying to hide the fact that Corey did every bit of fabrication on it. There's some more fabrication left, and Matt will be helping out with it. But the concept of this bike for me is working with people to bring a vision that I've had for a long time to life.
Yeah.
And that vision has been altered because of the hands that's touched it. Which so far it's only been Corey's hands is the only other person that's had anything to do with this bike other than Matt here. And basically my idea is to bring a bike together to bring the right people to help me do the things that I'm not good at, right? Now, eventually it's going to come into my wheelhouse where I'm known for the things I'm doing, but it's still my vision on this bike, right?
Well, and especially I feel like more.
It's me
even
that
more
brought
so
the
with
tank.
you than
It's me that brought the fender. It's me that wanted this. It's me that wanted. I'm the conductor in this situation on this bike. Not to say that Corey hasn't brought some things to the table that have 100% like been the icing on the cake for lack of a better term, and absolutely shown his expertise in this situation, right?
I think he more baked that you're putting the icing on, but if She want to use the cake analogy. I'm just saying.
Look, I'm gonna tell you
the foundation.
This is how it
right?
worked. All right, I bought all the ingredients. I brought it to him. He mixed this shit up and put it in the oven. Now it's in my shop, and I'm gonna make this bitch look good. Okay, that's how
that
this
works. That works.
Yeah,
But no, I mean more so. I feel like you were just saying, with a guy like you or Corey, or I mean even like how like Nick builds bikes. You guys spend so much time on all the little details to where even if you weren't the one who was doing the welding or the cutting, like you were talking about like the space between, the engine heads and the frame and stuff, like, getting all the space right. And then how this, how the bars flow with the tank and stuff. Like that's all, like a lot of people I feel like could even say like, okay, well, it was my vision, but like they didn't really, they sent it off to a guy like Corey and like, hey, I want a D-Rake FXR. And then like, it was my vision, but Corey kind of made all this. Knowing you, I know you specifically picked out each little thing. I know Corey is the same way when he builds a bike. Yeah. Like looking at the whole picture, not every little thing, and then how that all those little things come together as a whole. Does it all work together?
Yeah.
And to where it'll for sure be a Jay's build, regardless of how much you actually.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't really want the moniker or the title of building this bike. I want to stay away from that, because obviously, if in one way Corey built this bike, in another term it'll be a bike that I built, in another way it'll be whatever, right? So that leaving that up to whoever wants to interpret that however they want, that's fine, right? I'm not going to argue with them, and I'm not going to get into it. Ultimately, I'm just happy that this idea that I had years ago, that you actually turned me into this back in the day with Al Emerson and that old Frisco. I have this saved in my phone, that fucking picture, dude. That
I believe you.
Whatever.
We've all seen it.
Yeah, love it. But anyway, I'm just happy that this bike is coming out the way that better than I envisioned it. And that better part is where Corey came into play. Because my ideas were just a collection of the other things I've seen. Corey actually showed me something that I haven't seen yet. And that's why I'm stoked about it. And I think that, as somebody that's done so much stuff that was in magazines my entire life and been left off the sheet for having a huge part in it, like I feel like more people should peel the curtains back and let people see the real workings of how bike builds work. Because in our group, I think I mentioned this earlier, in the group of builders that we have right now, I think there's only one person that's doing everything. Meaning one set of hands is touching it.
Justin.
No. I think it's Heath Pinter. I think he's the only guy who is 100% touching his bike start to finish, from mechanics to fabrication to paint work. Maybe, and he works at Saddleman. So, he's technically doing the seat too. Everybody else has to drop off for paint.
Yeah. Or
or they need to drop off to the mechanic, or the welder has to come over and do this, or they got to send this to get machined, right? So there's these. I think the world needs to understand that it takes a village to build a really badass bike, and that village, when you have the right people involved, that's when the better stuff gets done. When it's polished, when you've got a great painter that you work well with, and you guys have a vision together, you have a fabricator, or maybe you're the fabricator. Usually you're one of the fingers in this.
Yeah.
But it's rare that you're all. You know what I mean? And I don't think people realize that. You know how many fucking bike shops are there out there that you see every year talking about the bikes they built? And I'm like, don't you just run the store? Don't you just run the online store?
Yeah.
So are you the builder, or are the other 9 dudes in the back doing that? Because that's also another curtain.
I don't know. Do you follow Pangea Speed?
Yeah.
Like, did you read through his
I did not read.
long ass post? You know what I'm talking about though? He's
I
talking
don't
about,
know. I didn't see it. No.
Okay. A week ago or whatever, he made a post about the People's Champ. And like I felt like it was a good conversation. We talked about it in our group chat. Some people felt differently. But like he kind of put up the thing about like, the way the People's Champ has been going. It kind of ties into what you're talking about. And about how like he feels like you kind of have a gimmick to kind of win the People's Champ, because it's a voting thing. So like if you just build a clean bike, it's not that noticeable as if you've got like something ridiculous on your bike, Yeah. And he had it was a long, like probably 200 plus comment, like, whole conversation happened under it. But most of it was pretty constructive, not much just like stupid, like, you know, it's like, yeah, fuck this guy kind of stuff.
Cake
you know?
decorators.
Yeah, it was a lot of good conversation on it. And one thing he pointed out that half of which I have always kind of agreed with and half I've kind of argued against, but I kind of start feeling the same way, is he was talking about like, just because you, and this is Pangea Speed, name's Andy, old like chopper guy, built a lot of bikes. Been going around for a long time. If you wanted to go look at that. But he was talking about how it's one thing, like there's guys who will have a hand on every single piece of the build. They're machining the engine, they're machining the frame, they're welding, they're bending. They you know, everything is scratch built. And that's cool, but if the bike doesn't come together and look good, does it matter that this guy literally built 100% of the bike? You know, outside of mining the ore, somebody always takes to that part. Yeah. But like, you know, like, no, he actually bent all the tube, welded all the tube. You know, he built
starting my build with a pickaxe.
Yeah. But you know, like he machined the engine. You know, it's like he did everything himself, like the entire build. But if it doesn't look good, and another guy, maybe he bought a frame and then put it, you know, maybe he made the tins himself, you know, put it together, but it looks better. Which should win the competition? Should this guy win just because he actually hand built everything, even though it looks like absolute shit?
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with him on that sense too, because I've always been more like, okay,
where are you at?
Well, I've always, this is where I've kind of been conflicted, and it just kind of had me thinking. That's what I was talking when we were talking about it in our group chat.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was. His was more focused specifically on the fact the way People's Champ works is if you're getting votes in, you have to go over the top to get votes, you know, or you just don't stand out. But then that was just kind of like a sub part of that whole conversation. And I've always seen it as a lot of my favorite builders, I felt like weren't necessarily the best fabricators, like, but they just had an eye for things. Like when I look at their bikes up close and personal, maybe being a welder is, okay, that's not a perfect weld and stuff. Like this weld doesn't look great. It holds, obviously, but it's not the perfect, not the greatest metal shape or this or that. But they just have an eye to make that shit look good. Like something like how you have, you know, it's like you're looking at the entire thing. How does this work together? Where you'll see the guy who's like the best metal shaper, but then he wants to shape every fucking thing and he goes so over the top of like, yeah, that's a really complex curve he just did. But it doesn't look good.
Work with the
it's
rest
really
of it.
hard to do. But
So,
and that's where like I've always been a little conflicted on that. And that's where what Andy was talking about kind of had me thinking. I really agree with him. I think on the sense like, I think if you're entering a competition, you should do a certain amount. Like if you weren't even painting, if you weren't doing any of this bike and you're just farming it out from shop to shop to shop, that's different. Cool, build it that way. That's cool. You built a cool bike. That is cool. But don't enter a builder's competition.
Yeah.
But also in the same sense, okay, Corey did the work. Just because I'm going to just I'll pick on Brian because I like Brian. So just because Brian actually had a hand in machining and welding every single part on his bike and nobody else in this competition did, doesn't mean he should win if his bike looks like shit. You know, it shouldn't be a competition of who did the most work, which is where I've just kind of been trying to grow and like see things differently. Because I used to feel like, fuck that guy. He didn't even do the welding on his bike. You know, it's like Brian did do the welding, you know, and so his should win. But it's like, no, if it doesn't look as good, then, you know, it's like I said, you should have a hand in it. I don't think you should just shop it around you could shop it around, but if you're entering a competition, you shouldn't.
Yeah, you should make as much as you can.
As much as you can.
Yeah, and then you bring the people in to do the things that you're either not comfortable with doing yourself or just flat out they're better at it to bring the vision to life. Exactly. Or you like their take on your vision or whatever. But on that same note, I've dealt with this for years because I'm just a painter, right?
Yeah.
I've always just been a painter in everybody's eyes, but they don't realize that like every bike that I've ever just painted that I've also did everything else for, I've welded before. I know how to. I'm not good at it, but I know how to do it. I'm just not good at it. I don't trust my welds on a neck or on a down tubes going on the highway yet. I haven't welded in a long time, right? I had to sell my welder to fix a goddamn Acura that I never could get registered. So I fucked myself on that. But I've met so many people that are amazing fabricators and machinists, and they can make this piece look mind-blowing. But the biggest problem, and, you know, I think this is we'll see. But I think a lot of times when those guys are looking at that part that they're designing on a machine on their computer screen, they're not really seeing it on a bike.
Yeah.
And when you see it on a bike,
And it might even look great on that bike. You'll see it all the time with like the FXR thing, especially before this whole tour thing where the dude's actually building it, where like that's a cool part, and that's a cool part, and that's a cool part. And they've got 50 cool parts on the bike, but they don't work together.
Yeah.
Those are all cool parts on their own. But like that part just doesn't work with that. Like,
so I'll tell you exactly like the fusion that I'm trying to bring together on mine, right? Which when I say this, most people are going to shake their heads like, duh. But obviously I'm from the performance world of motorcycling. That's kind of where I've been cutting my teeth for the last 7-8 years, right? But after
what's a performance bagger though?
It's
T-bars.
T-bars or fuck off, right? So
With paint.
yeah, with paint. I'm blending a lot of more modern looking style stuff with a traditional tough chopper look, right? Kind of D-rake, not really. It's technically not a D-rake at all, but it's got that tough kind of D-rake vibe, right? So I'm trying to like bring in these performance elements that kind of go together, but then also it has this chopper stance and this chopper kind of aesthetic to it. And it's difficult because there's a lot of nice parts out there in the performance world that I can throw on this bike, and some of them I have for this bike. I'm also once I get them, I got to figure out how to highlight them or mute them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's another thing that I think people forget. Like, they just think contrast everything and let's bring a lot of attention to this kickstand. Like, why? If we didn't have to have kickstands on bikes, we would not put them on bikes 100%, right? I think that like building a bike is about how it makes you feel when when people see it, right?
Yeah.
When I see a bike I'm in love with, I feel something when I see it.
Well, for me, it's always been, I don't know if you do a lot of riding. I don't anymore, but historically I did.
Yeah.
And for me, bikes that always spoke to me, whether they were even practical or not, was when I saw a bike and if I was like, dude, that just looks like a fun, like I want to hop on, like I wish I was friends with that dude and I could be like, hey dude, can I take it for a spin? Like that looks like a bike I want to ride.
That evoked an emotion in you.
Exactly. That's what
did
always
something.
spoke to me.
Yeah.
Like when I do the Hanukkah bikes for FX, it's like it's bikes. It's not necessarily the best, like the cleanest, the most expensive. That's a bike that I see and I'm like, dude, I wish I could go rip that around. Like that looks like a fun bike.
And that's the thing is like, you know, for a lot of people that are kind of coming into the world of motorcycles, maybe through the FXR vein or maybe the performance bagger vein or Dyna vein, they might not have an eye for choppers. They might not give a shit about it. So that's why there's going to be people that look at this FXR tour and probably look at my bike and Rennie's bike and Paul's bike and be like, I hate that. Because this is not for them. And that's the thing about motorcycles too, is that like,
It's okay.
I'm not building this bike for anybody else. I mean, this is not a competition of who has the best bike. It's a competition of building a bike, showing up at a meeting spot, and making a trip. The one thing that everybody always bitches about, oh, does that bike even ride? We're doing a competition of riding bikes, and we want everybody to win. We want everybody's bike that shows up to Durango to make it from point A to point B, because that's how you win this. If your motor blows up, your welds break, your bike, you know, for some reason has to go on a trailer because something broke, as a testament to the build that you just did, that's how you don't win. You know what I mean? You hit a deer, all right, you still won. You know what I mean? Something out of your control, yeah, we get that. But
and there's 10 of y'all, right?
10 of us, yeah. So the concept is, it's simple, man. It's like build a bike, ride it across, you know, some of the country, and Clem's is building a land speed bike.
For more
And
casual, fun conversation, who do you think out of the 10, now that we're getting closer and we kind of got an idea of what everyone's bike is looking like, who do you think is going to be hating riding all the way there the most? Like,
probably Clem, because he's building a land speed bike that's clip-ons, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a small tank, and he only is running race gas. So he has to have somebody carrying race gas.
So he wins. Okay, so he wins that side the best. Who do you think's going to have the easiest time of it aside from Corey?
Aside from Corey. Well, Corey would have been the easiest because he's got his shit dialed.
Oddly enough, the only guy who actually comes from a chopper background is going to have the easiest time now.
It's not his chopper background that makes him so meticulous. It's just
no, but I'm just saying, like, 5 years ago, he'd have built the most the hardest bike to ride across the country out of the group of people.
I still remember the day that you turned me on to him when he built that Sportster at Giddy Up.
Space
We were
Chopper?
both in, that Sportster still to this day is. We were talking about it the other day.
I think that was the third time I met Corey for the first time. Was at that Giddy Up. Love you, Corey. But yeah.
I think that
I remember we were geeking out on that thing at Giddy Up, and some chubby dude's talking to Corey, and he's like, well, I can never ride that thing, you know, 'cause look at your foot controls, look how high they are, you know, and Corey slaps him on his gut, and he's like, do some fucking, so he didn't say fucking because he don't cuss, but he's like, do some sit-ups in, man. He's like, I ride the shit out of this thing, it's all good. Just laughing at the guy. That was the second time I met Corey. First time was when he built that.
Was it also your first time?
Yeah, probably. No, we always recognized each other when I saw him. I met him at Giddy Up maybe a year or two before that when he built that silver shovel.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we've always been.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Paul is also building. He's putting a supercharger on this bike, so this bike could be kind of difficult to ride. I mean, he could have changed, the situation, but I think the monoshock thing is going to be interesting.
Is Justin doing like a fairing and stuff, or?
I don't think so. I think he's running open.
I've only seen that one he just posted, the post with like all the billet everywhere.
Justin's bike will be. I mean, he did a lot of research. I mean, to be honest with you, like Justin, Torch, and the FXR division guys were a big help for Corey in getting the M8 stuff going, and then Corey's kind of.
Is Justin's an M8?
I think Justin and those guys out. We have three MMA, three MMA8s, whatever. MMA, so it's Justin, my machinist M8. It's Corey main drive M8, and I think it's FXR division M8. And FXR division, I think, just posted some pictures of their like the way they're kind of hard, rigid mounting the motor in the front, which is kind of interesting to see. But they said that the motor's so balanced it doesn't. I don't know. It's interesting. There's a lot of
those
detail.
Guys know things.
Yeah, there's a lot going into these bikes, man. In my opinion, and they're going to be different. There's definitely going to be plenty that are not the flavor of Kool-Aid that you like.
But it's cool because I can't think of any two that are real similar. The closest similarity ones are probably you and Paul, and they're not very similar. But that's probably the closest you can get out of any two. And like I said, and those aren't really similar, but those are. Yeah. I can't think of any other two that are similar. I mean,
that's kind of the thing is like when we were putting this together, it's like you didn't, and it sounded like I was being an asshole, and it wasn't. I didn't want to. I think neither Justin nor I wanted people in the tour that were just going to restore a bike. And when I say just restore a bike, I'm not downplaying restoring a bike.
But it's just like I was talking about earlier about like there's nothing wrong with sending your bike to 5 different shops to get built because they specialize this and this. It's just that's not for a build competition. Yeah. Just like I love, you restore a 92 RT to fucking perfect, just like it was from the factory, but you got T-bars and a thunder header, and it's like clean as fuck. That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Not really for a build competition then.
Exactly. So when you start getting into these waters where you're wanting to show, I said this a long time ago, I think FXRs are a rite of passage to people that want to build custom motorcycles. You can do anything with an FXR. They're very modular. They can go a lot of different directions, and you can get them cheap. I mean, relatively.
I've said it before, though, on this, probably at least a year or two ago, that I feel like that's where Dynas need to be, honestly. Because I think Dynas are even more versatile. Because I think they take to the chopper look better than FXR even does. Because
they lend themselves to like the 4-speed frames way better.
It looks
than
just
FXR.
like an old shovel head 4-speed frame. I mean, a Dyna. That's why they switched to the Dyna from the FXR, because the FXR people didn't think looked like a Harley with the whole triangle. So they went back. They went to the Dyna with the exposed battery box, just like a shovel head and everything. And I feel like people just haven't embraced it. But I feel like I said this around when the Softails came out and everyone finally got on board with it. That I feel like that's a better lane for the Dynas to be in now, because they don't really fit in the performance. They're not as good as an FXR. Performance-wise, I mean, that's what people say. Yeah. And then the argument was always, okay, well, but you could go buy a new one. You could finance it. It's got more power than an FXR. So there's all that. Okay, well, now you've got a Softail. So where does that leave the Dyna? The Dyna, it's not better performance-wise than either one. It's not easier to attain than either one. So where does it really find a home? I feel like eventually people need to start embracing it, and whether it's a chopper or just like a quote unquote chopper to where like you're just putting some mini apes on it, maybe, you know, cutting the rear fender down, you know, and just kind of like people do with a swing arm shovel, you know.
Oh, yeah,
No,
yeah.
you know, like just like something kind of simple, you know, just kind of strip it down, make it cool. And I feel like that's a better lane for the Dyna these days than anything else, if you ask me. And I'm ready to see people more take that, because like even now you look, Dynas and like 20-year-old Road Kings are the cheapest Harleys, big twins you could get today. You can find both those for $4 or $5 grand pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I feel like that should be where people should be embracing the Dyna. And I'm excited. I think it will eventually get there, and I think you'll start seeing some pretty cool things happen. Like you're talking about Church of Choppers, Jeff Wright. Like, you know, he's done a lot of cool Dynas in completely not the Dyna Bro way. And I think that's an avenue people need to start exploring more, because I think you can make a Dyna look really cool that way. Maybe you sacrifice a little handling, but let's quit pretending like everyone's racing MotoGP on their Dynas and FXRs.
Well, it's been around. I mean, in the Chop Cult days, there was a whole thread on Dynas that were done up that way. You know, and hundreds of pages, thousands of pictures of Dynas with sissy bars or mini apes, you know, just kind of done up like 4-speed shovels.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't doing like, you know, like Emerson's doing with the D-rake Dynas and stuff like that, but they were kind of not so much chopping them, but making them look like shovel, you know, older school bikes and stuff. It's nothing new. It just maybe not. I feel like that performance thing took off with Dynas, and that's like everybody. That's what everybody started doing with the Dyna. For, the last 10 years or so.
I think whenever you get a bike and whatever the most trendy look of that bike is, the most what fits it the best, and that RT or not RT, but the T Sport fairing or a quarter fairing on a Dyna, some T bars just poking out of the top, like it's a fucking vibe. It's something that looks good.
I had one.
It's hard to get away from that when you know that exists and it's only a couple $100 away.
Yeah,
that's why I'm just saying I'd like to see people start pushing it in another direction.
I'm at a point where I think some people might argue that I'm probably not on this, but I'm at a point now where I feel like I'm finally working on a bike that I truly want for myself instead of for the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like don't get me wrong, like I think that this bike's going to do well for my brand, you know,
well,
but
it's
not for that.
You've been talking about this bike for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool would it be if you do all this traveling you're talking about next year on it and stuff and riding it all over? As far as a feather in your hat, if you at some point, say the Harley Museum asked like they did with Dan to like put it up in the museum for a year or something, you know, after you do a whole traveling on it and stuff. I mean, I feel like you being you, I mean, I feel like anyone being anyone, but especially, you know, as ingrained as you are in the Harley world, I mean, that would be a pretty big feather to be able to stick in your hat. If they're like, hey, Jace, like, I mean, you could be like, yeah, you know,
if you promise
Harley
not to leak any
bike.
more photos, we'll
Oh yeah, I guess you got bad blood with them, but
yeah, it didn't go too well at Sturgis this year either.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What's I don't know this story.
Well,
Don't tell Jace anything because he's got the
no.
He'll tell everybody.
I know what you're talking about.
Well, people send me that shit.
I just
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
just
it's
hit
like
me.
I'm not under any NDA contracts.
Yeah.
None of that shit. So if those things come to me, Harley's never reached out to me for anything. The only thing they've ever reached out to me was a cease and desist of that last post.
Yeah.
That's it. So in my book, I'm like, well, you're not fucking with me. So like, I have no reason not to give the public what, you know, they should know, you know, but yeah, back to what I was saying, like, don't get me wrong. Like the tour, when Justin came to me with the idea for this tour, immediately the fire for this bike came back up. It's always been there.
Yeah.
It's always been like, man, one day.
About it a long time.
82, I'm going to find one.
What year is that one, though? It's not
85.
82.
It's an 85. It
doesn't really matter.
So, you know, when it happened, and then originally I reached out to Jacob Kennard about doing the frame, and then the more and more that Jacob was down, but he was real busy with his Born Free build. So I'm kind of glad it worked out this way, because the amount of involvement that I kind of wanted to have, being Corey in Dallas was just such a better place for me. That way I can see it and we can communicate it much on a different level. And I wanted to video a lot of this, which I've got some of it, but it's been hard to video when you're on the road so much, right?
Yeah.
No, I just truly like take the tour out of this thing. Like, this is a bike I've always wanted. I hope that it feels the way that I imagine it's going to feel to ride it. You know what I mean? And if it does, it's probably going to be one of the my most favorite bikes I've ever owned. I have no intention of ever getting rid of this bike.
That's just what I get to. Is the nice thing is, unlike when you build a road glide or something, you don't have 50 grand into this bike to where you have to recoup. I mean, I've got to assume you're probably going to end up being under 10 on it. I mean, if you don't take your time and stuff and what you put into it, but it's not going to be one of those things to where, okay, if I want to build another one, I have to sell it, because I think a lot of us know how that goes. You know, if you drop 20, 30 grand into a bike, it's hard to build another one without selling it, you know? And so where you will get to keep it, even if it becomes your second bike instead of your first bike, you know, you can hold on to it.
I don't know, man. It's just like, it's kind of another page where it's like, okay, is FXR choppers popular? I don't think so in the grand scheme of it. It is a buzzword right now. There are some, I've actually seen a couple that's come out recently that are pretty badass, especially out of Japan. Another dude here, I forget his Instagram name, but I was kind of following his build. It came out pretty dope. Paul's was dope. I mean, it's still small, right? And it's not, I'm not doing it because it's small and it's like, it's the fucking, you know, punk rock thing to do or whatever. I just want it. I've always wanted a chopper. You know this. I just never was into the. I can't do the greasy chopper thing because it's just against my nature, being a fucking custom painter, right? I can't do crab claw flames because it's against everything that's in me to do that. You know what I mean? I have to make my stuff look the way that I'm capable of making my stuff look. It's just in my nature, you know.
Plus, you look clean every time I see you. You don't wear 5-day-old jeans, you know, to the show. Hold me to it. If I start turning into a chopper bro, you know, if I start to stink a little bit, let me know. Say, hey man, you're turning. Starting to turn a little bit more.
But I don't know.
If you're gonna do it though, you got to go all the way, man. Just don't be one of those dudes who only stinks at shows. Like if I see you on like a Wednesday, you got to be stinking too. Don't be one of the posers that are just
He's out there dousing me with some smell bad shit. But I think that, like, I guess what I was trying to get at, and I still don't know if I can articulate it, is just like, it's nice to build something because you want it, not because you have like this ulterior motive on the other end of it, right? Like, oh, people are going to love it. I think most people are going to hate it, to be honest with you. People that don't like choppers are going to hate it.
No, I think they'll like it.
And the other people that like choppers will say it's not a chopper because it has suspension on the rear. So
that group's getting smaller and smaller, I feel like.
For real?
Those dudes. At least from who I follow or whatever I see on Instagram, gets a lot less hate. I mean, it's still out there, obviously. Yeah. But
I know everyone, you talking about like the meme with the, you know, it's not a chopper if it's got suspension. Yeah. Everyone who's ever sent that, like, to me, or like when I built swing arm choppers, because I did obviously a few of them, were all people who bought a rigid frame and didn't chop a thing on it. Yeah. You know, I'm like, so which is really more chopper? If you bought a Paco frame that's a rigid already, and then you just put a Wassel tank and this and that, how is that a chopper if nothing got chopped?
See, this is the part of motorcycling that I don't like. It's the explaining. Yeah. You know, it's like, why? Like, why even have to go to this place of like explaining the validity of the actions that you're doing in motorcycling?
Because it's just like when me and Dusty and the guys bought Gold Wings. A lot of people's whole personality is wrapped around motorcycling. It's not just FXRs. It's around choppers. It's around performance baggers. It's around whatever. It's their entire personality. I'm not talking about just around the boys on the weekend. It's their whole fucking life. Yeah. You know, like this is what they live for is I am a chopper dude or I'm an FXR guy.
What's funny is they're not really, that's not their whole life. That's their whole Instagram. Yeah. Which basically is their whole life is their Instagram page. Like I caught a lot of hate from dudes that I ain't never seen at a show. I ain't never seen them out in the wild riding a motorcycle before. I only see them on Instagram. Yeah. Fuck you guys doing on Goalies? Well, my first ride when I moved to Tennessee, me and John, you know, had a day off or whatever, and our drag specialties rep came out, and he's a local guy, obviously, gonna take us riding. I'm on my Goldwing because that's the only bike I took with me because it's the only thing I had running at the time. Mm-hmm. And we're riding, you know, and we go, you know, it's beautiful. We're looking around or whatever. I have no idea where I'm at, and then I start seeing signs for 129, Tail of the Dragon. Blah, blah. And I'm like, this thing's got bald tires. You know, it's an 87 model Goldwing. We pull over to the lookout spot, and I tell Blake, or ask Blake, like, dude, are we fixing to do the Tail of the Dragon? He's like, yeah. I tell him, fucking old ass Goldwing. He's like, well, I'm sorry, you know, we're here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm out there doing the Tail of the Dragon on Goldwing, and some dude's talking shit to me that hauled his bike to a FXR show in the back of a truck or something, you know? I'm like, where's the hate coming from? I mean, we're out here riding. Where you at?
Yeah.
We're in Maryville. Come hit these roads with us, you know? Come hang out.
I think a lot of I'm guilty of this, right? And this is something I've kind of caught in myself over the last, especially this year being more catching it. But I remember I used to be like, "Oh man, why are you wearing a bell helmet, man? You need to wear a Simpson." Me saying that is to justify why I wear a Simpson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Instead of like I'm content in my choices in life, therefore your choices have nothing to do with me. And so it's made me intentionally look at everything that I do in my life and make sure I'm doing it for myself and not for the projection of myself to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I still will slip up and be like, hey, performance baggers have T-bars or fuck off, right? I'll be that guy. I'll be the hypocrite. But at the same time, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what you do, if you ask me my opinion about this, that, I'm going to try to give it to you. But I'm trying to be less projecting my own things onto people. You know what I'm saying? That way, hey, I mean, John Jessup said it in the podcast. He goes, if you like it, I love it. And I fucking hate that is the easiest way to go about life. But it is. It is, There you go, John. You won.
John makes a lot of money with that saying also, though. He's not just telling people that.
But he's
selling them shit.
I also like, my buddy Insta Kyle, he's like, hey, man, you like it, cool. Just don't ask me my opinion about it. He's like, because if you want to know how I feel about that shit, you're not going to like what I think, right? And I like the fact that
I like that.
I'm still going to hold my opinion towards, like, say, your choice in a motorcycle, but I'm not going to be like.
No, I like that. That's I feel like that's the closest I've heard to where I feel like I've tried to get. I mean, like I said, we can almost call this just the old man's podcast where we're all just trying to grow. And
are we old men?
But like the same thing where it's like I still have all my opinions about things, but I'll keep them to myself unless you ask. But I feel like most of my friends, like Nick, you always told me, like when he was building this bike, it's like, or every bike, he'll ask me like outside of our group chat and stuff and just be like, what do you think? Or like you've been quiet. Like it's something you don't want to say. Just I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you if I think the bars you picked are fucking dumb and they don't go with the bike. Yeah, I'll let you know. It's like but that's why I like how you're saying Kyle put that. It's just like I have my opinions. I'll tell you if you ask, but I'm not just throwing it out there because we just don't need that.
Yeah, and. So like I said, man, I've just tried to be more mindful of like, hey, if people like it, like they want to, they like wearing certain clothing brands, like why the fuck am I gonna, why even put my opinion out there when it's not asked for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I've been guilty of that for a lot. Some of it has made for great podcasts, but at the same time, it's not necessarily.
That is the tricky part.
It is.
We could just talk shit for the next 30 minutes, and this podcast is going to get way more views than if we don't. Yeah. Because then everyone we talk shit about is going to be like, hey, man, did you see that? And then they're going to go watch it, and they're going to watch it, and that's the shitty part.
Yeah, it does. It drama pushes narratives further, but it doesn't, like, I don't want people to listen to my podcast and be like, you know what, like, I fucking hate that dude because he doesn't like the shit that I like, or I would rather people listen to this podcast, either gain some kind of insight and perspective, like maybe some of the things we talked about today with like just general life, working, family stuff, or be stoked on like, hey, I think I do want to try this travel thing, or I want to try building a chopper or a bike in general. Like, I think that like I'm sick and tired of so much, negative shit in the world, and I don't really want to put any more into it. I'd rather find a way to be inspirational, like. One thing, not that I'm trying to be inspirational. I'd rather put things out there that can be turned into inspiration rather than the latter, right? And so I've heard this thing on a podcast on the way up to Sturgis, and I fucking love it, is instead of trying to influence people, try to inspire people, right? Mm-hmm. It's like influence is like I'm trying to make you buy that helmet because,
yeah.
But if I just do it and you like the way it looks and it's cool, and I never said buy this. You're kind of influenced still, but it's the inspiration, like it's your idea to do it. Not I didn't put that idea in your head.
I like that a lot, and I feel like that goes along, like, I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised extremely religious. Like, I mean, I'm atheist now, but like we were like the church.
I went to
2-3
church
times a week
to try to finger girls. Yeah.
No, we were there like 2-3 times a week, like Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, like all the time, and it's in line with that. It's like how. It's still how I feel like some of my friends who are still religious and stuff, and like sometimes, you know, people like to get preachy on that, and it's like the way I was raised in religion. Like I said, I'm not anymore, but like it wasn't like, don't tell people to be like, my brother's the perfect example. He's still really religious. He's like the only one of my siblings or one of my brothers, and he is like what you would think a good Christian person's supposed to be like, right? And a lot of Christians are trying like push the religion on you, push it on you. He's just a really good person. You meet him, you're like, why is this guy such a good person? You know? And it's more like he's inspiring than trying to influence. He's not trying to tell you why you should be a Christian. He's just a really good person. You're like, well, why are you so good? Like, why are you so happy? Why are you so, you know, why do you just come off as such a good person? And that's how I feel like you should live with just everything. You know, like I said, I've kind of left the religion thing aside, but it's goes across all aspects of life. You know, like you should just try and be that kind of person, not try and force people to do anything.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier, that when you're that person that's constantly projecting your ideas to the world, you're kind of looking for confirmation in those ideas rather than being comfortable with those ideas for yourself, right? Yeah. And those people that live that life, they're living the embodiment of the idea that someone else might be trying to preach to you, right? Yeah. And it makes you more inspired to go down that path because you see an alternative way to look at life and live versus someone just telling you that shit. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So, yeah, I think it's a great way to look.
And as I say, I mean, same thing. Fucked up plenty of times. Like I'm sure I've got enough hours on this podcast, not as much as you, but to where you can find contradictions.
Oh, yeah. I'm full of them.
All over the place. But, I mean, all I could say is I see it as growth. Like, I'm still growing. I don't consider myself perfect. It's just like, you'll meet people like, oh, man, I've been this way since I was in high school. It's like, okay, so you mean you ain't grown at all in the past 20, 30 years? Like, you've been the same way? Yeah. So, like, how is that something to brag about, you know? People be like, man.
Same OG.
You're like, yeah, I've been into this shit since then. I've been the same guy ever since I was a fucking kid. And it's like, bro, you need to grow. Like, that's the way I see it. Is I'm like, yeah, you could go back 4 years on this podcast and be like, man, none of this aligns with what you said then. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I'm a different person now. Like, I'm constantly trying to grow. Not saying I'm always right, but I'm trying to reevaluate, look back at what I'm doing, and is this a good thing? Am I doing it right?
Well, that's the thing about like listening to a podcast, especially like the fact that we've done so many over the years, is that you are seeing people grow. You are seeing people go from. I started this podcast when I was 35 years old, man. I'm about to be 41.
Well, look at how much better you talk now. Jesus.
I still don't feel great about it, but the thing is that when you have just, you know, you have the life that you've lived up to this point, and all these things that can be how you make your decisions and your opinions based on. And then as you live more life or you do more conversations, you get exposed to new ideas, new ways of thinking. And that allows you to grow and change your opinions about certain things or evolve those opinions into, you know, sometimes even harder down on some of them. But
you always got to keep an open mind with all of it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've changed my opinion on podcasts in real time before based on better information, you know. Yeah. But when someone's asking me my opinion about a certain bike, like, you know, the buzzword of the Indian Challenger when it came out, or, you know, the hot topic of where performance baggers started and who's an OG and not, like all these things, it was kind of fun to be a part of it. It made for great like podcasts.
No,
you know,
look at who you're talking to. Trust me, I get it, because you talk about like the Challenger when it came out, or even the Softail when it came out, the performance bagger thing when you were going on about that. Same thing as you with the podcast, and it's fun, and the views. Making memes on the shit is fun. You know, it's like it's a good outlet and stuff. And like, you know, it's always good interaction and stuff and funny shit going on. But a lot of the reason why I stopped is because so much of it just leads to negativity, to where like it's almost that instant gratification thing, to where it's just like it feels good in the moment. Like it's like I mean, I make anyone who knows me in real life, like I make just as many jokes in real life.
Yeah.
At other people's expense, at my expense, whatever. I've been 99% of the fights I've been in my life have been from saying some dumb shit. You know, like it's just the fact of the matter. But that's how the memes were, but it's like I said, it's fun in the moment, but in the long run, I feel like it just promotes negativity and not what I felt like being associated with anymore, which is why I mostly, or I 100% stopped it, just because, well, I saw it as fun. I felt like it got to the point where I knew other people weren't seen as fun. Either somebody, maybe it's directed at, they're not taking it the way I intended it. Sometimes I half intended it that way, but it's still just, okay, it's a joke. I'm going to take it, you know? Yeah. Or then just the comments get to this thing to where it's like, yeah, it's fun getting all that interaction and stuff. It kills like half a day at work and stuff where I'm just going back and forth, but it's not promoting anything positive, you know? I felt like it was just all, it sucks because, I mean, I feel like comedy is fun and it's funny and that's in itself positive, but it just felt like it was promoting more negativity and it was making me feel more like a negative person where I'm looking at like where I can dig at something every time I look at it, you know?
But even the concept of comedy, right? Like comedy 24/7?
Yeah.
Is there not, I mean, could that be too much?
Yeah.
I mean, if your whole purpose of being on Instagram is to look for comedy all day long, then you know, maybe there's supposed to be segmented things that you kind of gain throughout a day. If it's just like at the expense of nothing but meme pages and cat videos, it's like, I mean, I guess you probably have a positive outlet. I mean, but memes when they're about like the society as a whole is a lot different than when it's about a very small niche of the world that we kind of live in, where it's always going to be at the expense of somebody, you know, right? Yeah. And there's nothing, I think, you know, I've had plenty of memes about us, the brand and all that shit. And it's, for the most part, I know all the people that have done the memes and it's funny and it's a good take.
It can be, but
yeah,
it's,
but I would hate it.
It can get to a bad point.
Yeah. I would hate for like some people that don't know me or never listen to my podcast to see certain memes and be like, oh, that's the truth, because in that comedy is 50% of the truth,
well, then
right?
I'm making memes about you and we're friends, and then some other dude pops up, throws a comment about you being a cake decorator, and then we're all like, man, we don't know this dude. Fuck this dude.
Yeah, it's
know?
like it puts off the wrong thing.
For all we know, he's just like us and he's just cracking a fucking joke, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just, you know, it didn't feel like it was created. It wasn't adding to my life, probably anyone's life, you know? And I feel like same thing when you talk about the drama on podcasts, you know, it's like, while it can add views and this and that, you know, is it really putting out good shit in the world, or is this just Desperate Housewives of the motorcycle world?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, don't be wrong. Like, you know, I have a conversation about the new CVO, put opinions out there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, so bad. You know, one thing that kind of illuminated this to me was, when my buddy Sit Down Steve, when we did this, he did the video, right? I recorded the video where he did the burnout in the bar and got like 3-point-something million views on Instagram and it's supposed to be on like fucking fantasy. What's the Rob Dyrdek show? Ridiculousness. Like it's supposed to go there, right? It got so big because of the divisiveness of the people in the comments talking shit. Fuck that guy. He deserves to get shot in the head. That dude's a fucking legend. That was badass. You know what I mean? Like it's that back and forth.
Who are these people that even comment though?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's like, but that's the only reason this became viral. And if you think about the things that do become viral, it's because of usually that. Yeah, it's because of it invoking two different emotions and two different types of people to come together and argue about it. And it's like I would hate to be famous for some shit like that. I would hate to hang my hat on whatever notoriety I have in this world because I put stuff out there that made people argue. Yeah. Right? I want to be known, if anything, or remembered by putting stuff out there that made people want to try something or attempt something or...
Well, I mean, on that sense, though, I mean, think about... I said this, I'm going to say it again because it might have been on one of the deleted ones. You know, the lost tapes that'll pop up in 1 year, you know, be that exclusive shit. But, like, how many people do you think have either A, ridden their bike cross country because they listen to your podcast, or B, I've told you before, like it wasn't the first camp out, it was a couple years ago camp out. I think it was the Muddy one. Yeah. Where all these bikes are, and I'm like, dude, these are all like brand new baggers. Like probably 80% of the bikes, they're brand new baggers. And then like 30% of them are done up from, after they bought them. So they bought like a $30,000 bike and then they spent another 20 grand. And these guys are all camping in the mud in tents. I was sitting there with Corey just looking around. We both came from like the chopper days and giddy up and stuff where that was kind of common. We're like, these people were never the ones doing that. If they were going to go somewhere, more than half of them were trailering their bike and then they were going to get a hotel. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all this is just Jace. Like, that's what we were talking about. Like, it's just like, this is Jace. Like, there's a campground full of guys camping in the mud with a $60,000 bike right next to them. And, like, these guys weren't doing this shit beforehand, I mean, you came from the big wheel bagger world, which is, like, the expensive bike before the performance bagger. Like, those guys weren't riding their bikes out to a muddy field to camp in the ground. Yeah. I mean, I assume. I wasn't in it. And I was like, that was all inspired by Jace. You got guys riding from all over the country to come to a camp out to sleep in the mud. Yeah. Well, and these are guys with money who could easily just afford to go stay at the Marriott down the street,
Well, I mean, taking the credit for that is hard because I think that what that is the things that I was inspired by going to Giddy Up.
But you put that in other... Yeah, I think you do get the credit. Because, I'm not saying you invented camping with your motorcycle, but you inspired... easily hundreds, if not thousands of people. You inspired them. Whether you started or not, you were the one who inspired all those people to get out there and do it themselves.
A whole group of people that never did that type of shit before. Before it was chopper guys and, maybe not choppers, but just old school shovels or whatever. It was never the bagger guys that were sleeping on the ground, much less in the mud, getting their $30,000, $40,000 bikes dirty. There was never that group. At least as far as I know that I ever saw until your camp out. One of my first, I'd say my customers, one of John's first customers of one of the first bikes I worked on out in Tennessee was a young kid, local guy to Maryville, and he was just getting some upgrades, new tires, service, whatever, and he was super excited, like as excited as I used to be in my early 20s to ride a chopper to a camp out, And I was like, where are you going? What are you up to? Where are you going? He's like, I'm going Fast Life Camp out in Oklahoma. You know about it? I was like, yeah, I've heard of it, But, I mean, he was as excited as I was 15 years ago about riding a chopper. And you never saw a young dude on a bagger that excited like that.
Usually that dude would have been excited to go to the local bike night with his Affliction jeans and stand outside his bike.
100%. That's exactly what that dude was 10 years ago or so. And now they're getting stoked to ride halfway across the country or all the way across the country to go sleep on the damn ground and just have a party,
like whether that's at your camp out or someone else's. I feel like you're the one who brought that to a whole genre of motorcycles.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there's credit due for that. Like I said, not that you get anything, not that me giving you credit means put that money in your bank, but I feel like, again, a feather you could throw in your hat, like as if the museum says they want your chopper in there for a year to show off, That's just another feather. Like you got literally, I would say, thousands of guys out there sleeping in a tent in the mud next to their bike that never would have even considered that 5 years ago.
Well, I mean, what do you say to that? It's the thing that I think I've always done is if I see something cool and I wonder why this can't apply over here, you know what I mean? Like why
why does it have to just be a chopper thing?
Yeah, why does this have to just exist in this world? Because the elements that we've beaten a dead horse with, the feeling of what it was like to go to Giddy Up and sit at that campground and the camaraderie of all the people there, and it became not about the bikes. When you were on that campground, the bikes did not fucking matter, and that's kind of the thing that I've always wanted people to understand about even coming to our camp out. The bikes don't matter once you're there.
Yeah.
It feels good to come there on a cool bike and all the pictures and all the things that you're going to get on the way to and from. But when you get there, man, those bikes are parked next to your tent, man. Like you're meeting people and doing stuff, you know?
It makes me think of two things. Two questions for both of y'all. Mm-hmm. First time you camped on your bike, like, do you remember what the first time you camped on your bike was?
First time, yeah.
And then the other one is, you're talking about like the dude buying the bike and stuff and then riding out to the camp out and stuff. Do you remember the first, what you would consider big ride you took on your bike? And just,
I remember the first one, yeah.
I want to hear about it, but then also like just do you remember how the first time you ride a bike a long distance, like it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is or how shitty, if it rained, if it was freezing, like it was so easy compared to now. At least that's how it is for me. Like when I think back, like the first couple big rides, or like when I took Ben to run to Raton for the first year, we rode out there straight after work and it was freezing. I was miserable. And this was his first big ride on a bike. It was recently after you got Shovelhead. And we stopped and it's like 35 degrees. I mean, it was freezing. You know how the desert gets in the night, you know? It was super cold and we're freezing. And I'm like dying. Jade rode the van. He was behind us. And I'm like, and Ben's just like, I pull over, I'm falling asleep and I'm freezing. And Ben's like, dude, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, and his bike is clapped out and stuff. And I'm like, dude, my bike, I'm on my RP. And I'm like, I'm on a comfortable bike. You are not. You're on a clapped out Shovelhead. But like, and that just reminded, that's what first reminded him, like the first time you ride your bike on it doesn't matter how long it is. It could be 1,000 miles, you be dead tired. You're just having so much fun and so exciting. You're not even thinking about any of the shitty stuff.
Yeah.
So do you remember those two things? The first time you camped and the first big ride you went on to where like it just went by like that and you're just like, that was the most fun I've ever fucking had.
First big ride was 2013 with a black motorcycle club called 10 Toes Down. And they invited me to ride with them from here to Florida? It's
Pensacola?
No, Panama.
Panama City.
Yeah, Panama. They had a little bike event they do there in October. So it wasn't cold, but we got tons of rain, and obviously I didn't have a rain suit. But
of course, they were never prepared on that first ride.
They're the ones that showed me about leaving it early, because we left at 2 a.m. and we're pulling in there at like 6 p.m. And you get that second wind once you get to your destination.
That's like a cheat code, man.
It is. And, you know, like I said, that was my
what
first
were you
time.
On?
I was on the big wheel.
You were on the big wheel.
Yeah. And, you know, it was just, I always like.
So you're talking about like a good 800 miles. That's a good ride.
It was an 800-mile day. And I remember getting there thinking, I could do another 200 miles easily and hit my, 1K in a day thing.
Yeah.
But, at that point, it was like, we're going out, we're drinking, we're having fun.
You're not even tired when you got there.
No, I was fucking ready, dude. So the sun was still up. You know what I mean? It was fucking awesome. And then the first time I ever camped was
your first big ride. Like it don't have to, I mean, whatever you consider. If that was 4 hours, whatever was bigger, you learn to ride around town the first time you went further.
I don't really remember.
You're not that old, dude.
No, I'm just a year older than you. But
it don't have to necessarily be your first, but one that's an early ride that like you feel like was so exciting and easier back then than it probably would be now. Because now it's just like, at least when I hop on a bike, not that I hate it, it's just like,
I love it more, man.
Yeah.
I love it more now than ever.
For me, the miles, they're harder. Like when I hit mile 300, I'm more tired now than I used to be.
I feel like, not to cut you off on that, maybe you could think about it real quick. I especially after this summer, I almost feel more comfortable being on the road now than I feel like being back at work. Yeah. And it's a weird transition because like out there on the road, whether you're in a hotel or sleeping on somebody's couch, it's just like, I feel no responsibility. Yeah. You know what I mean? I know that responsibilities exist, and I know that I got to make sure the rent's paid and this and this and this, but in that moment, like it's like the most free I ever feel. Like right now, those responsibilities exist, but they are not in my vision, my view or whatever. So it's the one area of my life I feel like I'm completely free and able to be in the moment 100%, to feel the heat or the rain or the wind or the fucking road conditions. Like you're just so in tune with everything going on, everything going on. Oh, what was that? Was that a coyote out there? You're just me. I'm just fucking dialed, and I love that feeling. It's almost becoming an addiction, I think. You know what I'm saying? So, you still?
I mean, I've not done a lot of big rides, to be quite honest. I mean, just even riding the Just Kickers or Giddy Up is a good 5-6 hour ride.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, and I don't remember the first one. I'll say this, the one that's most memorable for me that I would consider a big ride was the FXR Jam out in
Maggie
Valley on my RT. It's definitely not the first big ride I took, but that's the one that sticks out in my mind, I guess, the most, just because back then it was a bone stock 83 shovel, stock carburetor, everything. No no upgrades to suspension, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, a bone stock 83 shovel. And other than that, had RP bags on it because I had scraped my bags up a little bit, as you know. But that's the one that sticks out the most, you know. And had a couple of guys following me around in a truck or whatever, and they had some bikes on a trailer, and they jumped out at like Loretta Lynn's or something and rode a couple of hours with me or whatever. And
Yeah.
but for the most part, it was just me. Did have some issues with my air cleaner breaking and stuff like that, but for the most part, I mean, me and Mike rode home together that trip, most of the way at least, and had a few little, you know, issues, but the old girl made it, you know, and
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
pretty proud of it. So as far as memorable big trips goes, that's probably my most memorable. Not the first one, but I mean, I rode it to Giddy Up, you know, after that a couple times.
You rode to Giddy Up before that too.
Yeah, and before and after that, actually. Hauled a flat of freaking Lone Star beer and a couple bundles of firewood on the tour pack. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? I think you were there that year, actually. That might have been your first year there.
Yeah, probably it was 17 was my first year.
Yeah, I think that was the year. We had our usual spot by that center block building right there up on top of the hill.
That was my first camping trip
Yeah.
on a motorcycle.
My
And
first
that-
camping trip was just kickers on my old shovel.
That was
the
my
weekend we
second.
met. Yeah, he was on a KZ chopper, and I had a KZ chopper at home.
That's
I
how
remember
we
that.
met.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Because I remember we met. We were at that Just Kickers, and they had the campground there, and there was a band playing when we met. They were up on the. No, we first met at the gas
Met at the
station.
gas
Then we met
station.
again is when we talked more. Is when the band
Yeah.
was playing. We met at the gas station because I remember. I came up where it was a beer station, I think. But either way, it was just a little spot, and I was on my KZ, and you pulled up on your shovel. Hey, it's a nice KZ there. You're like, I got one at the house. And I was like, no shit, I got a shovel at the house.
Yeah.
You're like, did we just become best friends? This is before Step Brothers, I think. So maybe,
Yeah.
hey, we didn't say that, but
I bought like this big square bag that you strap to your sissy bar, you know. And I don't remember what they're called. Not a. Basically like a canvas tour pack, I guess
Yeah.
you'd say. And I'm at this station, and I bought trash bags, lined it with a trash bag, filled it with ice, High Life, obviously, you know, and talked to him for a little bit because you just don't see KZ choppers out in the wild, you know,
Yeah.
especially in freaking Oklahoma. So I was like, hey man, this cool KZ you got there. Oh, yeah, I got a show at home. Then I see there's a
That
band
what
playing.
Mike sounds like.
And I got my bike pulled up pretty close to the front of the stage because it's got like 30 beers on the sissy bar, you know. So we had a few beers, and then I think my points were failing or something. I went to pull off to my tent, and I kicked my bike like 60 times before it finally started, and the whole crowd's laughing at me at this point. I was
but I share a video, and I'm the bad guy. You just put it out for the whole world.
yeah, it was bad. So that was my first camping trip. Wasn't too far from the house. I don't know, maybe a 3.5 hour ride, something like that.
Yeah.
Not too bad. It was cold and rainy that day on the way up there. It sucked. It was like 40 degrees and raining straight down. Me and a buddy of mine left. He had known this older guy that had a hardtail chopper. I mean, it was a factory-made chopper. I don't remember what it was, but it was, you know.
Big dog or something like that.
something like that. I mean,
Sucker.
not wide-tired. I mean, it was a pretty cool-looking bike, but he didn't build it. But whatever. He was a cool old dude. He lived a few miles down the road from us, and I didn't know the guy. And my buddy Danny had told him what we were doing the next day, and I guess we had to go right by his house on the way out, and he heard us. Well, we stopped in Sherman, Texas, right there in front of the Walmart to get a coffee because it was so damn cold. And we're only 30 minutes down the road, and we're already stopping for coffee. And we're sitting there drinking coffee, and here comes this old man on a shred and white chopper. He was like, man, I was laying in bed, and I heard y'all. He said, I knew it was y'all. So I just knew I had to come. So I hauled ass.
That's cool.
I threw some clothes on. It was a kick-only chop, too, like Evo motor, 4-speed transmission. He's like, I knew it was y'all going by. He said, I got up, threw some clothes on, got
That's
this thing fired up, and he went and partied with us all that weekend.
That's badass.
The dude was probably 50, 55 years old at the time.
Sounded
you know?
old at the time, right?
Yeah, at
Now
the
it
time,
sounds around the corner.
He's a middle-aged dude now, but at the time he was old.
How prepared did you go? Did you show up for your first time camping on a bike, Dusty? Like, did you bring a tent or anything? Or
I did bring a tent, but I bought it like on the way. You know, I think I had like one change of clothes, a shitty sleeping bag, a $15 tent. Not very prepared.
The first time I didn't have a sissy bar, I had a little tool roll, and that was it, and just what I could fit in my pockets. And just that's when I slept with Bobby in his little. He had like a little 2-man tent that's really a 1-man tent.
Yeah.
And we had to kind of practically sleep on top of each other because it started storming so bad, and I was just sleeping outside, and it was just so wet. He's like, bro, just come in here. I'm like, man, ain't no room. And we're like, we'll make room, and we got a little gay that night, but shit happens. It's better than being wet.
Yeah, my first camping trip, I definitely overpacked. It sucks because like remembering some of the amazing places on motorcycles I've been fortunate to camp in America, Monument Valley, Big Sur, Gold Coast, Oregon, lots of really cool spots, along a river in Pagosa or in Durango. And then when I started like really diving into photography, that space got taken up by camera gear. Yeah. And so it's been hard to be on the road and carry camping gear and camera gear. So it's like one or the other. But I'm next year I want to at least try to bring a hammock and just do that here and there, because that's such a small footprint versus a tent. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I miss the camping aspect of it. It's the hotels are nice because then you can come get in there, charge your shit, unload all the memory cards onto a hard drive, and get prepared for the next day of riding and shooting and shit. But it's
Mike turned me onto the hammock deal. That's, in my opinion, is way better than a tent. As long
the only
as
problem is if you don't find a spot to.
Yeah, that too. I guess you got to kind of plan it out. But
yeah, Monument Valley, there's not a lot of trees.
This is true. We took a little trip up in Oklahoma not too long. Well, I guess it is quite a while ago now.
The one we went?
Yeah. Me, you, and Jade and Gary. That's the first time I slept in a hammock.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is so much better than the damn ground where you feel every freaking pebble.
Yeah, as long as it's good weather. If it's cold, the hammock sucks because you got the cold underneath you and on top of you.
Right.
Versus like in a tent, at least you can kind of
have
create like a warmth off the ground and stuff.
The cold can get fucked up in a hammock if you don't got something to sleep on.
Well, I'm a fair weather hammock guy, I guess.
Yeah, me too. But no, it's I don't know, man. Like I think that I've always said this. This has been something I've carried on since the beginning of podcasting. Is I feel like everybody should try all this shit.
Yeah.
They should try these different bikes. They should try riding or try getting into different bikes other than the one bike you're really into right now. It's like
because you happen to. I mean, most people get their first bike. They don't know that they're not a Dyna bro when they bought a Dyna. They just happen to get a Dyna.
Yeah.
Or an FXR, whatever the bike is. It's like you might fit in somewhere else way better,
Yeah, and I mean, the people sometimes is that. I mean, obviously every scene's going to have their shit shows and they're good people, but honestly, I think that I'm starting to really believe this more and more as I get older, that you kind of attract the kind of crowd that you are. And then when you're being a fucking very negative, kind of dude, you're going to attract a lot of people that is attracted to. Because it's a like-minded personality versus like if you want to be around more positive, more inspiring, more of these things, then you got to at least shut up and let that exist and not be against it. You know what I'm saying? As you're being who you are, not looking for everything that you can turn into a debate or an argument or whatever the case may be. So don't get me wrong. If I'm drinking right now, I'll probably be like, you know what I fucking can't stand? I'm that guy that he's in there. You know what I'm saying? But. I don't really want to be that dude. I want to,
I hear you.
I want to just have fun, man. I think that, you kind of said something earlier that made me think of my brother a lot about how the kid that was riding next to you going to Raton was just so into it. And my brother was the exact opposite on his way to Sturgis. He fucking was miserable. But I think looking back on it now, my brother wishes he could be in that position again to do something like that.
To psychoanalyze you and your brother, I think a lot of the problem there was probably Jesse was trying to be who he thought you wanted him to be.
Yeah.
Not who he wanted to be. Where he's obviously found his way back to bikes. He's been doing the bike thing again. I think he had to find that on his own. Where I think at that time when we all first met Jesse, he was so young. He was like 20 years old at the time, and I think, and you were just the coolest thing ever, whether he said that or not, you have to know that's what he thought. And I think he was trying to be who he thought you wanted him to be.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't going to Sturgis and riding because that's what he wanted to do. He was doing it because he thought that was going to get his respect or love or whatever from you, because that's what you wanted him to be. And I think, like, it seems to me, I chat with Jesse sometimes now. It seems like he's back into bikes, but I think it's probably a healthier go around this time, him finding it on his own. Just like if you got into it because your dad was into it, but you were just looking for your dad's love, it's like not doing it for yourself,
Yeah.
And I feel like that was he was just young, trying to find himself. I mean, you've known Jesse his whole life. I've known him the past 7 years or something. He's jumped around thing to thing, but I mean, I jump around thing to thing too. I mean, everyone does. I think he's just trying to find out where he belongs,
Yeah.
And I think when I first met him, it seemed like where he thought he belonged was Jace Jr.
Yeah.
But he's not Jace Jr., And I think it's like we said earlier, it's all just a growth thing, And I think he's growing into who he needs to be, not who he thinks Jace needs him to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I do see that now, for sure. It just sucks, man. It sucks whenever you, for me, especially on the Jesse thing, it got difficult on my end. Like I counted on him a lot, and I needed
on a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
Where
but I
were
needed.
you at 20?
I was better than.
Maybe we got Gary where
He
he
already
thought you
told
were
you he
at.
busted his ass through his 20s.
I bust. I didn't do it. I was. I mean, I.
But
Put
even
like
if
this,
you did, a lot
I
of
wish
people
I-
don't.
yeah.
A lot of people like to fuck off their 20s.
And that's fine, But like, I don't like when people want to be on my path but don't want to do my work. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's a different thing. But I do like the fact that Jesse's on his own path now, figuring shit out. But I still don't think it's good for him to be around me too much, because I think that there's just he might be found his way back to bikes, but he needs to earn his own place in bikes now. Not, well, I'm Jace's brother. You've heard of the Fast Life. Well, yeah, I used to work there. I used to do this. I'm not saying he's doing that, but I want him. He needs to go out and become Jesse, and then whatever that is for him, he's wanting to get into doing some chopper stuff. He's talked about, learning how to weld. I'm like, I wish you would have wanted that when you were here, so go do that. But go do that on your own. I can't help you anymore, and maybe in years you can kind of get your shit together and bring something to the table, and we can look at how maybe we could do something again. But it's not now, And I depended on him for a lot of my career, and over the last couple of years, I've learned how to not depend on him, and that's less stressful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For me.
Yeah.
So, and it's not talking shit. I'm not trying to, where he's at now, I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
even though he works for a dealership that I can't help promote. So,
But he got to do his thing, not for Jace. So.
Yeah, and that's fine. And, because we don't, I saw him at bike night for a few minutes, because I was there last week, and I just stopped in for.
Do you still go every week, or?
Not as much as I used to.
Does everyone go? Is there still a bike night every week?
Oh, there's a bike night every week. It's popping, but it's a lot of new faces, and those new faces have kind of got their click now, and it's kind of what we always wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Something that just exists.
I feel like that's a better thing.
Yeah.
If it exists even without the original guys.
And, like I said, I like going in, saying what's up to a few people and being able to get on the bike. But obviously with the heat right now, it's just pretty miserable. One of the best rides home in a long time, because Tuesday was when we had the 90-something degree days.
It was like 98, bro.
It was
whole
like,
front came through.
Nipples were hard while I'm going down the road. No, bike night's still fun, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go next Tuesday. I'll be out there and stuff, but I'm not as I've traveled so much this year that there's been so many Tuesdays I'm just not here. But if I'm home, I usually go.
Yeah.
It is hard because I'm trying not to drink right now, so going there, I couldn't go there and spend 3 hours there. I'd end up wanting to drink. But that's fine if I did. I'm not like trying to slap my wrist if I want to drink. I'm just trying to let myself really go. Do you want to drink right now because Dusty's drinking, or do you really not care? And at this point, I really don't care. When you first brought that in, I was like, do I want to drink? I was like, I don't really care if I'm,
I didn't know you weren't trying to drink, or I wouldn't have brought that.
Oh, no. I'm not.
No, me and Dusty got to drink, so fuck you.
It's you're 11.1% alcohol.
Dude, them things are
Dangerous.
Are those like the new Four Locos or some shit?
And it's a wine too, dude. So we're at the Texas Whip Fest, a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Whip
and
Fest?
the beers were like super expensive, but they were trying to get rid of those, so they were
Like $2 for $3 or something.
Yeah, $2 for $3 or something like that. So it's me, him, and Ben, and I'd already had like this big red beer thing, and then I had a couple of Dos Equis, and then I'm like, man, these things are super expensive. Mike's like, man, these are $2 for $3. So we started drinking those, and they're hitting hard, and I got to drive home. And I'm like, because I don't get out and I'll drink a few beers if I'm out or whatever, but like I like whiskey, I like drinking vodka, but I drink that at home.
Yeah.
I'm at a point in my life where I ain't trying to get drunk and drive around or whatever.
That's why I stopped 2 hours ago.
So we hit a few of those, and I'm like, dude, these things are pretty stout. And then we notice our buddy Ben's not even around us anymore, and
it's a drag strip, so that's we're just watching the race.
yeah, and they rode together, and it's getting pretty late, and I'm like, dude, I don't know where Ben's at, but I got to go. Like I've got to stop drinking 100%, and I need to get going. You get the house getting pretty late.
Yeah, this is all the way out here because there's the drag strip out here.
Okay. Yeah.
So
No, that's the end. Yeah.
Ennis?
Yeah.
Yeah, there ain't nothing but cops out there.
yeah,
That's a long drive, and you're leaving Whip Fest, so they're fucking. You already know.
Thank
there's
goodness.
State troopers out there all the way down 287.
Well, cops are saying it's a black car show, man. The cops are stacked out there. Come on.
It's the first time in a decade that I was paranoid driving home because I'd had that much to drink, and didn't even know it. Like I didn't know we didn't look, it's like, oh, it's a little beat box,
Yeah.
Anyway, what you take over? He finds Ben somewhere.
Because Dusty's like, I gotta go. I'm like, all right, Ben must have gone to the bathroom. Ben's like the most, like every group of friends has like the responsible friend. Like you're like, oh, I get fucked up tonight because so and so's here. Like and he'll make sure everything's cool. Like I don't know if you get that way, but like he's our responsible friend. Like I've seen him. Like I don't know. Did you meet Hutch? Like, yeah. Hutch will get passed out like going golfing, or like when we took him to Giddy Up, he'll get fucked up to where he blacks out, and like Ben will have to like pick him up and like take him to wherever he's got to go. Ben's
Ben's the guy we called to come pick us up when we rode the truck.
He's the anchor.
He's that guy.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, Ben's gone. I'm like, can't find him. Must be in the bathroom or something. Can't find him in the bathroom. Can't find him out. I'm walking around. I'm like, trying to think. I'm like, okay, is this a different friend? Maybe they got into a fight or something. It's late at night. Everyone's been drinking, smoking weed. There's a lot of people around. A lot of loud music playing. Like you've been in these kind of scenarios. I'm like, you got in a fight, man. You got arrested. I'm like, not Ben. I'm like, some of my friends, I'd be like, that could be what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'd just be like, all right, well, I can't find this. I'm gonna go home because I got to go home. I've got Kylie with me. It's late as fuck. Like we got to get home. I had to work the next day too. But I'm like, no, it's not Ben. I'm like, Ben is the fucking, he's the anchor. So we're looking all over and stuff. I'm calling, texting, nothing. Finally, calls me back and he's like, man, I don't put his shit out there, but he also don't listen. And he ain't really on social media, so don't nobody know who he is. So he's just like, yeah, dude, I fell asleep in the bathroom, man. I'm so fucked up. And he's like, I found him. Finally, because then he said that, and then I go in the bathroom, he's not there. And then he's just like laying on a picnic table, just blacked out, fucking gone.
Wow.
And it took me like an hour and a half to find him. Like that was like the quick story.
Yeah.
Like I cleaned up the whole I had a little pop up and chairs and coolers, stuff, put everything away, trying to find, and then just looking all over. We finally found him, but yeah. That's saying these things will fucking sneak up on you, that 11, 12%. And
they're
a little dangerous.
They ain't no joke, that's for sure.
Yeah, and to be clear, like I'm not saying that I'm trying to go sober. I'm just trying to like
reel it back.
Yeah, I mean, I like we do, like me and Marcus and our buddy Jake, we do this little whiskey podcast, which I think we're gonna do probably next weekend or so. So I'll drink a little whiskey on that thing. We usually, between the three of us and Matt over here, we'll do a bottle. And by the time 4 people kill that bottle, we got a buzz, but nobody's really fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Monday night to me.
What are y'all mostly bourbons, or what are y'all getting into?
well, we, like I think some of them are back there.
Whiskey pig.
We just, like, Marcus brought one last week, and then Jake
Is it
brought
Marcus or a different?
Yeah,
Marcus?
Marcus. Because it's just a fun podcast. I mean, fuck, didn't we do a bottle of cheapest? I don't know if it was that. Shabazz or however the fuck. We just find a bottle of whiskey, and then like once a month we'll all get together and do a podcast. And it just stays on YouTube, so it's not like on our.
No, I wasn't even aware of that one.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. So we're gonna do one with Marcus because he did his first Sturgis this year.
That was his first Sturgis?
That was his first Sturgis. So he's gonna come on and we'll talk about that and whatnot. I just haven't had a chance to schedule that one with the guys.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, and like I said, I went to Rennie's camp out last weekend. I as soon as I got there, I had the shits, and I've kind of had them since then.
A lot of shits, yeah.
I've kind of still been having that same issue. So I just, maybe it's because I've been shitting so much that I haven't had a taste for alcohol, but I didn't even really drink in Sturgis either.
Yeah.
Like I drank one night, never got drunk. It was just like I had like maybe 6-7 beers through the course of like 7 or 8 hours and just, nothing happened. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to fucking be like, oh, I'm sober now. I'm not trying to do that. If, I might go home and be like, you know what, fuck it. I wait for it to get cold because I love Guinness. So get them dark beers back in me. I'll be back in heaven.
Not so much a summer beer.
I try to drink in the summer, but it just doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, it's a little heavy for a summertime drink.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm drinking beer a lot right now. It's just not, I don't know. Maybe it's the heat. That could be in it.
Like, these are the first beers I've had this week. Been on like a vodka kick, like vodka and lemonade. It's summertime.
Yeah.
I don't feel it's hot outside. You're trying to do shit outside. I've moved 3 times in like 2 months. We moved from Tennessee to Murphy, Texas to Aledo. I'm over it. All that crap. It's just being outside in the sun, man. I don't know. It just the beer just seems to kind of drain you, dehydrates you quicker or something, makes you feel like crap. So I've not been drinking during the day. Haven't been drinking beer during the week, but I'm not going to come up here and drink vodka, for 4 hours and then drive home. So here we are drinking beer tonight. But
I thought about I had mentioned like, y'all want anything? Because I'd go pick it up or whatever. But
I knew he was going to want a High Life, and I was going to grab some of these. So
yeah, well that's cool. But hey, man, like fuck, 3 hours we did pretty good.
Yeah, surprised. I didn't think we'd have shit to talk about.
No, I thought we talked about some cool things, if for those listening, if you, we touched on some shit. So
for all you dads out there, this was the dad podcast.
Yeah, this is the Over 40 podcast, even though I'm not over 40. You're over 40 now, right? I'm 36.
God damn.
I just feel I got a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old.
So I'm 41 next month.
I thought you were younger than that for some reason.
No, he's like
How about you, Matt? How old are you?
38 next month.
Damn, Matt's older than me?
Yeah.
I think.
Call him Paul. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's different, but fuck, I don't know. Everything stopped. Things are breaking as soon as I turn 40. So we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, dude. Preaching
I've had
on that one.
I've had my tennis elbow starting to go away. I've had it for about 4 months now.
Yeah.
So I started working out a lot last year. I was doing well, and then I'd be doing a certain motion. I'm like, that don't feel right over there, and I wouldn't pay no mind to it. And then lo and behold, like I ended up having basically an inflammation thing go on, and to where even if I like just pick up a can of soda, it was just sharp pain, hurt. And then when I went to California on the first trip in the summer, the levers was kicking my ass, pulling the lever for the clutch. But I was on
old shit.
Yeah, I was on my way to Sturgis, and I was like, man, like, oh shit, like that. I hadn't been hurting. Like I guess I got so used to the pain that it just became part of like my everyday, and then now it's kind of gone away. But now when I drive a car, when I'm just in my Jeep driving around for longer than it takes to get here to my house, my wrist hurt on my left hand. It makes no fucking sense. It's like it's like I can pop my wrist at any time but this one won't pop anymore. It's like something's fat, something's going on in there. And it starts to kind of like just hurt.
Gotta get on that health insurance.
Right.
Motorcycles, man.
Well, yeah.
If I go get a job to get health insurance, I won't be able to travel. And I just told you how much that fulfills me right now.
And that does make that tricky when you got X amount of time off. That was the hardest part about leaving GE was I was up to like 3.5, 4 weeks off a year.
Yeah.
And that makes it. That's a hard thing to turn down. Leave.
That's why I'm looking forward to getting back working
But
on the pipeline, man. It's hopefully I'll be at home more, but when you're at work, it sucks. You're gone, just straight up. You're gone. Everybody's like, man, I don't know how. Guys that work on the oil rigs that work 2 on and 2 off, and they're like, man, I just don't know if I could do it. I'm like, dude, you're home half the month.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gone 5 months at a time.
Yeah.
It's a long time
You
without
know,
pussy.
but
Yeah.
Allegedly.
allegedly. But when you go home and you're home every day for 5, 6, 8 weeks,
Yeah.
it's hard to plan a trip around that because you never know when you're going to be home.
Yeah.
But that time off, man, I hear you. Being able to travel, have that freedom, it's important. It's important to me. Like, I tried the 9-to-5 type of lifestyle or whatever for the last 2 years, and as bad as I thought I wanted to get away from pipelining and working on the road and being gone like that, to me the trade-off is it's worth it to be home like that.
I think some people are just more destined to kind of have that, like, it's almost like being in the military. It's like going home, being away from home long enough to miss everything about it, to come home to appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of us need that.
I know my wife appreciates me a lot more when I've been gone for 5 months and I got a lot of money in my checking account, and then I come home for a little while. Like, when I'm just home every day, not so much.
That's not what I signed up for.
You're supposed to be gone.
Everybody at her work was like, how do y'all do it? You know, like, Dusty's gone all the time. How do y'all do that? She's like, man, how the hell do y'all live with y'all's husbands? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I guess
That's her mentality.
only other thing I want to make sure is clear is while I say try to be way more positive these days and be a better person, the one place it's not changing is if you've got a problem with one of my friends, it's still, we don't got to fuck with each other one bit. So for everyone who's got a problem with Nick, because everyone's got a problem with everybody, and that dude ain't done nothing but try and help people out.
100%.
And so if you got a problem with him, we're just not fucking cool.
Yeah.
And it's just that simple.
Yeah, FXR Bazaar, he's done a lot for
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah, 100%.
Love you, Nick. Shout out, Nick.
Yeah, always got love for Nick. Outside of bikes, outside of everything, he's just a good fucking guy.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, cool. Thanks, guys.